Welcome, everybody, to episode 32 of the Sports Clichés podcast, a podcast with two people who also could not afford to fire their head coach. To be fair, we are not trying to run a football team. I am Craig. That is Jay. Did you hear about that story?
Um, Trying to fire head coach the McDaniels,
The Vegas
yeah,
Raiders cannot afford to fire Josh McDaniels and pay another head coach, as they would be paying three head coaches this year if they did.
yeah, um, yeah. Obviously, they're tied up in the legal matters with that. I mean, it's a uh, yeah. They kind of have to I think that's a common theme, right? Is these coaches, you get some of these guys, they get one season and it doesn't matter like what surrounds them, and as far as the likelihood for success, if they don't get it done within that one season, they're gone. And while I think we both agree that this isn't a good fit, and that should probably be the case for this one, it's kind of interesting how the role, like, it's kind of been flipped to where they're stuck. They're just kind of stuck, and it's like, you made the decision to put this guy in as your
Yep.
head coach. You're gonna have to ride this out for the foreseeable future. So at least through, obviously, not just the end of this season, but through next season. I think that's at the very least. And then you're potentially out of whatever arbitration or whatever that you're dealing with on the back end of that. And yeah, it's an absolute mess. They are, if you have one thing that you could kind of um, be not happy necessarily in this scenario, but at least looks a little bit brighter for the future, is that you are in a division in which a lot of teams have uh I wouldn't say a lot of teams, but you have two teams clearly within your division that have somewhat kind of misspent their money, also have come through some really bad times with injuries. Kind of those two things
Yep.
together have not only kicked the Raiders' ass, but it's obviously kicked the Broncos' ass with their high profile quarterback they bring in, and then the Chargers, less I would say their own fault, but you're kind of going out of your way to put build a team with some notable names. And yeah, when you're not getting it, and obviously you have the Bosa injury earlier and that sort of thing, we've talked about it. It's you're not the only one, at least. So at least within your division, the only real one that you could say is, like, for some, however they do it, they spend all their fucking money, they move their cap around, they restructure contracts, and Kansas City just seems to still get it done. So unless they fuck it up, I guess the Raiders will always play second fiddle on that. But yeah, that's the only solace you can really take in this situation if you're the Raiders, right? You're kind of fucked. You're
Yeah.
yeah. At least you're not in Oakland anymore. You could argue that, at least as far as your stadium is concerned, you got one of the best stadiums. You'll still probably make some good money, no matter potentially how bad the product you put out there is. It's interesting to see that they're still the highest cost game to go to in the NFL, even outside, even against the Bay Area, which is, it's Vegas, but when you're putting out a 2-win team there, you imagine that shit's gonna drop potentially next season, right?
Well, they are cash broke, right? So they need money. Easiest way to recoup money quick is up the ticket price. I don't know. I mean, to me, at this point, you turn it into a spectacle, right? You so last week, Josh McDaniels loses to a head coach who has never coached in the NFL, but did play in the NFL. This week, playing Nate Hackett, I would argue, step down from somebody who's never coached in the NFL. Uh, you just keep going. You see how far down the losses can go, and you turn it into a marquee thing. This week, Josh Daniels versus high school head coach who's never seen an NFL game in his life. Next week, Josh McDaniels head coaching versus us. Week after that, you just keep going and see how deep that can go, because fuck, man, he's bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad in general. Their offense is just it's shown, like, things. Like, obviously they're you could always take a look, at least within the last handful of games or whatever, and there's at least a moment like, oh, hey, yeah, we remembered, that we have this potential great connection with a guy like Devontae Adams, and he'll go off for a nice little game. But it's like it's not enough to win the game. Or
Yeah.
hey, we have Josh Jacobs. Look, he can run the ball still. Yeah, fuck that. And it's kind of just been that constantly, right? It's just like there's obviously no consistency with this team. That's why you're not winning games. But I think it's a it's a very perplex like they actually like the fact that they're going into a matchup and they're not going to be favored over what I would feel is potentially one of the worst teams. If it wasn't for the defense of the Denver Broncos, no,
Yeah.
I mean hands down that sort of thing. This defense is actually stellar, and it just kind of ruined as far as Denver is concerned. But yeah, Oakland, they're just generally they just have either a really bad game or you see a glimpse of somebody that's able to keep it close. Um, and I suppose they'll have a chance on the road this weekend, but yeah, it's pretty bad for this Raiders team for sure, no doubt. Um,
It yeah, it's rough.
let's move on from that one. Let's see. Let's get into the I suppose the week that was. Um, kind of hit on those games from week 10. And we'll start off because this is a really fun game. Let's get to some happier stuff. This was as fun of a game to watch, not even for the teams on the field and the product, but this was like, here's Munich, and wow, dude, like, is it a great fucking time? It looks like a real fun football game to go to, no matter what two shit teams could be potentially playing. We had the Seattle Seahawks playing the visitors, Tampa Bay playing the home team. Over in Munich, the the crowd, I think if you haven't seen it, there's probably some good clips of it, but they're doing, Take Me Home from John Denver. And it's just the whole fucking stadium. And they're hitting the notes too. Like, you're getting a nice little, like, entire crowd get into it. As far as the game's concerned, this game looks like it was pretty close. This was actually a pretty thorough stomping by Tampa Bay until it started to get a little fishy there about midway or so through the fourth quarters. Seattle crept this back, especially capitalizing on some really silly mistakes by Tampa Bay. You can't be a team that's lost as much as Tampa Bay has this year and not, just almost completely fumble the bag there like they did. But yeah, Tampa Bay. I did call this one. I did tell you. Seattle's not as good as perhaps their record was showing right there, and Tampa Bay had just enough. You got a great game out of what Rashad White for Tampa
Yeah.
Bay, I believe. So very interesting. Yeah, a run game that's been absolutely non-existent for this team, all of a sudden having some life to it. So, uh, you know, a really good win for Tampa Bay and a really tough loss for Seattle, especially given their divisions. All of a sudden, Tampa Bay now back on top in that NFC South. Who the hell is going to win it? And Seattle, you kind of knew that it's only kind of a matter of time, and all of a sudden, tough loss for them to take and essentially really give up that division lead they had.
Yeah, I'm not going to jump off the Seahawks bandwagon on this one. I think this is
Fair
just,
enough.
we see it all the time with teams going over to Europe. It's a bit of a shit show, no matter, like, the fans were insane, but let's be honest, that's like 10 hours of travel to Germany, right? And you're in Germany, let's face it, nobody on that field was 100% sober, don't lie. Everybody's had some of the beer. Um, I'm I'm willing to look at that game and go, that was crazy fun. Always go back to Germany. Their fans rule. But let's be honest, it's not indicative of either team, right? It doesn't. What you're going to get out of that is uh, sometimes games in Europe are hard for both teams because I don't think either team played their best. It's very sloppy the whole way around.
Sure.
Uh, um, yeah, Tough loss for Seattle, obviously. I think when they put this on the schedule, they thought this was going to be a game that didn't matter much because the Buccaneers were already going to be well in control of the NFC South, and Seattle was a nothing burger. And it turns out that wasn't the case at all. It was a highly important game. And I think the NFL, as you've seen over the last few years, have tried to schedule games of somewhat less importance to be in Europe. Um, but ultimately, it's a Europe game. It was sloppy, and the play on the field overall was inconsistent, and the coaching was inconsistent. They tried to run a 45-year-old Tom Brady run a go route. That didn't work. Like, I don't know. I have trouble with these European games outside of like, yeah, Team A got a win and Team B didn't. Tampa Bay got a win. It was a fun atmosphere. Always go back to Germany, but I always look at European games and feel bad when they kind of matter because I'm like, this isn't really indicative of either team.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's at the end of the day, I feel like there's still some things that are surprising, and that you can't take away from it. Um, I do agree that yeah, when you talk about travel and that sort of thing, yeah, it's gonna have an effect. The surprising thing is that you take a look at those numbers and you're like, oh, geez, did they even try to run Kenneth Walker? And they did. They actually
Yeah,
did. Early in this game, they really tried to get him the rock, and it was completely ineffective.
yeah,
Uh, that in combination of some penalties, some really unfortunate turnovers that maybe could have got them in this game a little bit earlier. They were still only
Gino,
down.
the Gino fumble
Right.
was, I think, the one that was the backbreaker in this one. They were
It
driving on that drive. They just gotten the interception off of Fournette,
right. Yeah.
and fumble in the red zone, I think, was the backbreaker.
You have that. Some really unfortunate, really not timely penalties as well.
Yeah.
That Seattle ends up taking. They end up knocking themselves out of manageable second down scenario into a long third down, all sorts of shit like that. So will all that translate over? No. I think this is something though. This is a game. It's a game right there in the middle of the season, and despite everything, like Seattle wins this, Tampa Bay loses, and that trajectory, that pull factor is huge,
Yes.
and this game becomes like that important all of a sudden,
Yeah.
really kind of plunked down here in week 10. Um, so better team between these two, yeah, Seattle definitely. It
Yeah.
feels like, anyways, as far as
It
general
does feel
play,
like that.
everything that you're taking beforehand. You wouldn't have said that on paper preseason going into this season, but at least as far as they perform now, it will be interesting though. How this is. At the end of the day, it's gonna affect Tampa Bay now. All of a sudden, like, do they play like even though they're barely there? They are the division leader again. Do they hold down that spot as they've kind of shown? Yes, we are still the top here, and
And they have a
Seattle.
pretty easy schedule coming out of this game too. We'll talk about what they have this week. Next week they have the Saints. Like, it is a pretty easy schedule. And honestly, same thing for Seattle. They get a bye this week, and they come out of it into, oh, they get the free win
Ra-
against Vegas.
Yeah,
They
again,
get they
Raiders,
get the free
Rams,
space on their bingo card
Panthers.
with
Yeah,
Vegas. And then it's
tough 3 game stretch right there in the middle of December. You got Niners, you got Chiefs, and you
yeah,
got Jets. And you know how I feel about the Jets. Don't sleep on them
but that
so
will
much.
likely be coming off of a stretch against the Raiders, Rams, and Panthers where you can pencil in at least 2 wins in there,
Right.
probably three for this team. And then yeah, you go into a hard stretch, ended at home against the Rams again. Um,
The one thing they got going for them is this is a lot of home games for them. Only 2 on the
yeah,
road, Rams and Chiefs. I do worry about that Rams game still for them, even though the Rams are not a good team and they're very beat up. They just lost Cooper Cup, that sort of thing. It's
yeah, without Cup, I don't think the Rams are a threat to anyone.
I the only thing I worry about is that you have you're gonna run, or at least what you want to do essentially. If you're talking about Seattle, is you're potentially gonna have that one thing. It's a pretty decent interior line, and that's the
Yep.
only thing that the Rams are really going to be able to bring as far as the defensive thing. So it's that game will more lean on a Geno.
Yes,
Geno will have to step
Gino
up
will have
and
to,
play
but
well
he has all season to be fair. And even in the game
most of the time.
in
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
even in the game in London, he wasn't bad. The
No,
fumble was really bad, but on a whole, he was pretty decent.
it,
Right?
it
It's not like Gino lost them that game.
it wasn't stat padding, but it was like too little, too late.
It was too
Get
little
it?
too.
Yeah. The scores, he did get
Although
a
it
couple
almost
touchdowns
wasn't
right at the
too
end.
little too
It,
late, to be fair.
they were able to. You could give that. I'll at least give him
Yeah,
credit for this. In a game that looked really dismal, they were down 9-21 or whatever the hell it was,
yeah,
and it didn't look like they were anything close to being able to make up those scores. When Tampa Bay started doing fucking around and making silly mistakes themselves, Seattle did hop on and take
yeah,
advantage of it, and they took advantage pretty quickly. I think there was a 4 minute scoring drive in there, like another 4 or 5 minute scoring drive. So
yeah.
like they converted it pretty well. That game should have been anywhere close
Nope.
like it was, but yeah, just enough of a kind of pull away from by Tampa Bay
Yeah,
to where they were able to fuck around the fourth quarter and not completely drop it. So
yeah,
surprisingly enough on that end, definitely a great game to kind of open the day on that Sunday morning. Was able to catch a bit of it, and then it went right into probably one of the best games of the year as far as folks will consider. We're talking about the Minnesota Vikings going into Buffalo and taking out the Bills in overtime 33-30. Very very close one, obviously. You talk about an overtime game. If you haven't seen kind of the last like 5 minute sequence as far as how this game went, I I I love the good old fullback C.J. Ham touchdown that got
yep.
Minnesota back into this thing from being down 10 points, and it was like, can Minnesota really make back 10 points? They sure as shit almost did twice, basically.
Yeah.
The goal line scenario, what a stop by Buffalo, and then the utter just uh,
Even before that, the Dalvin Cook
drop.
drop on the one
Right.
where
Oh
he's
yeah.
wide open.
That one hurt. Yeah, that one hurt.
Freest
Yeah.
touchdown you've ever seen.
Right.
Dalvin Cook, Mr. Automatic,
Yeah.
drops it on the one. They get away with it because of an offside. They go for the QB sneak. Beautiful stand. All the Bills have to do is not get caught in the end zone. You don't want to get a safety here. So you're going to do a quick snap to the quarterback, fall forward, get yourself half a yard or something. Oh, no, Josh Allen fumbled.
Yeah, I mean it's I mean we talked about it, we maybe take it a little bit for granted. I don't worry about QB sneaks with the Niners because I got Jimmy G. He's the
Yeah.
best goddamn QB sneak quarterback you have out there. No cap, no bullshit. He probably is like, if you
Him and
need a
Brady.
yard, he's gonna fucking do it. Brady, yeah, I don't know if the old man can still do it like that, but
I
yeah,
don't know
absolutely.
about 45-year-old Tom Brady,
He is
but prime
known,
Tom
yeah,
Brady
he is
was like
known
the
as a
master of 4th and 1 is a first down every time.
absolutely. So kind of took it, a little bit for granted. Kirk Cousins not a small guy, big enough dude to where you think that you wouldn't be able to not get a yard. But yeah, give him the push. It starts early. It's right away.
Yeah.
Kirk is met against the wall, and you're like, oh shit, he might not actually be able to fall forward with that leverage. He's getting stood up, and yeah, and I don't want to say that it's a. What are you looking for in that situation if you're Buffalo? I mean, as far as the time was concerned, I'm trying to recollect if Minnesota still had any timeouts. I think they had one still on the board, if I remember correctly. So you're
Yes,
doing
because
this
they used it on Buffalo's drive.
right. So if you're going for the sneak here, it's like you get it potentially, and I wonder what the scenario would have been. Basically, if fumble ball somehow Allen gets that back, somehow is able to get that ball back out of the end zone. They have to run perhaps the same play again because you
Yeah,
get a timeout from them. Like, yeah, you might not have that scenario anymore. You might, you know, the thought is so much that it's going to be stacked in the box, that sort of thing. I don't know. It's a great time to hit him with a PI with a play action.
action.
In my estimate, why not? You got Stephon Diggs, baby. You pack that box in, but you put him out there.
As
Dalvin
an
Cook,
aside,
or not Dalvin Cook, Singletary, whoever. Sorry, and I'm saying
Stephon,
Stephon Diggs. I flipped it around.
yeah,
Other
yeah.
Diggs. My mistake. Anyways,
As an aside, Stephon Diggs thought he had the catch of the year in that game, only for Justin Jefferson to say, "Kindly go fuck yourself, sir. This
oh
is
my
my title."
god, yeah,
Holy shit!
yeah,
Two
yeah,
of the best catches you will ever see
incredible.
in the same game.
Just first of all, hey, all the credit to those glove manufacturers. They got
Yeah,
those things working good for the
yeah.
one-handed catch. And then, I mean, obviously, how can you not just rant about Justin Jefferson on that one? Outstrengths a guy while falling
While falling
backwards.
backwards with one hand.
Oh, give me that shit. Like, with a guy who has two hands on the ball,
He had both
clearly.
hands on it. And Jefferson was like, "This is mine." That was wild.
And was that like on a 4th and 18?
It was fourth and ridiculous because they had
What
gotten
more?
sacked on
What more you
second
want?
down,
Yeah.
incomplete on third. It was fourth and ridiculous. And to be fair, Kirk Cousins knows the game plan on that. Throw it up to Justin Jefferson, see what happens.
Well, and I was taking a look. I think Darius Butler covered this, I think, very well
Yeah,
on McAfee's show. Um, but basically, the concept is on that far side, basically the right side of the
yeah,
formation, they get a deep curl that goes right to the sticks. And I think it might be Thielen. I can't remember who exactly is there on the right side. Cuts it right to the sticks. Gets basically like the corner there has to commit, and it's just a little 7-post route. Kirk actually overthrows it a little bit. He has
yeah,
enough room. It would have been a fucking drop in dime if he did it because he still has to kind of get it over the front defender there. But like the concept itself, I mean, I gotta give them credit. Like they absolutely drew up a beautiful concept to
yeah,
get that play to even have a chance. Because you're talking about 4th 18. What are they going to do? They're going to guard the sticks. Absolutely. So you need to
yeah.
give some kind of look that's going to open up the defense a little bit. Otherwise, that ball is just getting jumped, and I have a feeling maybe a little bit better leverage than two hands. I mean, how can you get better leverage than what the guy already had? But you know what I'm saying. Like
Yeah, yeah,
everything worked perfectly. Obviously, great throw, incredible catch, and a really nice play dialed up.
that was it. And you just kind of knew, right? We must also talk about the overtime scenario. Namely, Buffalo not kicking a field goal in field goal range in overtime. It would have been a long field goal,
Right.
granted. But they opt to go for it. Don't get it. Minnesota goes down. Oh, wait, no. I'm thinking of a different game here, aren't I? Yes, I am thinking of a different game. We'll come back to this scenario later. Minnesota starts, kicks the field goal. Buffalo, Josh Allen throws an awful interception in the end zone to lose that. Right to Peterson.
Yeah, and this was actually another play that was reviewed by DB on that show. Um, Patrick Peterson, just savvy vet move,
Oh, yeah.
just knew what was coming. But it's an underthrown ball, no doubt.
Yeah.
Like that ball's not getting to him regardless. So yeah, just a bad throw, and it's Allen trying to do the improviser things. He's I'm on the run. All right, I'm getting guys crossing. I like
Yeah.
we'll dial this up, and I'll throw a fucking rope, and you know given the history, felt good about it, that sort of thing. But yeah, absolutely, just a really well played as far as the concept was concerned. And yeah, Patrick Peterson, still getting it done. This is he's gonna start. If he's able to
Yep.
keep this up and is able to still perform this level as a DB at his age, you know, Richard Sherman sort of career. How these guys still stick around. There's very few that are
Yep.
able to do it at that age.
Yep.
Pat Pete might be.
32. And the thing about Pat Pete too is the athleticism has isn't there like it once was. You can see it, right? Like he's not the same
Oh yeah,
athlete, but he's so smart, man. He just reads the game so well. Like you look at his career, like he had the one year where he had 7 interceptions. He's only had 2 years in his career where he had 1 interception or less. Every other year's been like three. Like the dude is just like the dude gets it. He knows exactly where to be at the right times, knows how to read quarterbacks, knows how to read the game. He's one of those guys who every team would kill to have in their secondary, regardless of his athletic abilities at 32 now, because he's so smart.
yeah. I mean, he has the ability to just you could still play that level. You could still be an incredibly effective guy. You won't man up anymore against anybody. But
No,
yeah, if you're able to play concepts, you're able to play your zone, and you're calling out stuff. I think Pat Pete said on that specific play that he had it. He had that route and he's calling it out to his other DB while that play is about to go down. He's like, yeah, no, they're running this double post concept, and this back guy is just going to be doing a little bit more of a cross at the end of it. Yeah, read him like a book. Let's keep moving with last week's games and go into the NFC North shootout. Uh, Incredible comeback by the 3-win Lions against the 3-win Bears. Uh, Pretty crazy game. Obviously, as far as you take a look at the box score, um, this was not looking good at for Detroit for most of the game here. Um, Great to have St. Brown back for the Lions. A team that you don't have many pieces. You've actually traded away one of your main
yeah.
ones this year. You got to find it somewhere. Um, Justin Fields on the other side. I mean, you got to appreciate the fact, although there it's not exactly winning you games. They seem to have something in mind here and something that works for Justin Fields going into
He's
the
doing all he
future.
can to win you games, and on Justin Fields.
Um, and then actually going back to the Lions, I guess the only other thing I have, a little bit concerned, does end up getting a touchdown here in this game. I wonder if you just maybe really ease it back and park it with DeAndre Swift this year.
Jamal Williams is just fine.
Right.
He is more than capable as a running back. You finally have a lot of your wide receivers back. Like, yeah, obviously having Amon St. Brown back is huge. I think Khalif Raymond back healthy in this lineup doesn't hurt them any either. Right? Like they
Right.
finally have their pieces coming back as far as the defense or as far as the offensive pieces are concerned. Swift is clearly not 100%. And I know he's a huge competitor. He said earlier this week that, I'd rather play 100% or I'd rather play hurt than not play it. It's like, yeah, but that's the problem. You need a coach in your ear to go, I love the fight, but maybe fucking don't.
Yeah.
Um, I love DeAndre Swift, and obviously going forward, he's going to be a big part of this team. I still believe this Lions team has some pieces there if they can get a good quarterback behind it. Um, and obviously, I think a lot of the stuff earlier this season comes down to the fact that at one point they had 5 receivers injured, right? There's not going to be many teams in the league that can handle that. that have the kind of depth to be able to handle five receivers injured, let alone the team that has Jared Goff at quarterback. I think in the last few weeks, you've seen the Lions of last year start to come out again, right? They're a pain in the ass to play. Miami gave them everything they can handle, right? You have, then they come out, beat Rodgers and Green Bay the week after. Then they beat the Bears, right? This is a team that is hard to play against. They were last year. They're starting to be again as they get healthy. Um, I think there's probably a few teams out there that are looking at the Lions right now going, I'd rather not play against them down the stretch.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think that, and I don't know, it's interesting because I feel like yeah, you're this season clearly a wash. Like you're not going to be able to pull this really up. It is a nice little takeaway that you could say a good amount of those seven losses. I want to say about 4 or 5 of those seven losses, single possession games at the end of it.
Yeah,
They've kept some games very, very close.
yeah.
So you obviously had all the potential to win this game, um, and really just kind of throw it away. And then you have the unfortunate Cairo Santos miss as well on the extra point. This should have been a tie game. Santos misses it. It's only a 6 point lead. Detroit gets a touchdown, gets the extra point, and is able to take the win on based on that.
I'm just
I
gonna throw this out there. We talk all the time about how hard it is to be a kicker in the NFL and how,
right.
God, it's you get how does Cairo Santos keep getting jobs? This guy is the definition of inconsistent. His career percentage kicking field goals is somewhere in like the low 80s, high 70s. This is a guy who
Yeah, it's
makes
not.
a career out of missing extra points too. He's only like a 94% extra point kicker in his career. Like, there's so many guys who it's like, oh, you missed a couple kicks in a game. Now you don't have a job. Cairo Santos is still around.
Yeah. I mean, the struggles that the Bears have faced for their kickers, it's been it's been
The curse of
haunting them.
Cody Parkey, man.
I mean, it's really the curse of Robbie Gold. You
It's
let
the
him
curse
go,
of
and
Robbie
you
Gould.
you haven't done
Yeah.
shit since then. It's the Bambino all over again, fucking haunting you for years and years, right? Just
Um,
so yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, are you really like? Granted, would have been a 4-6 Chicago team in the NFC. I suppose you're still thinking something could happen
you're
there, but
still
really,
in the race.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm
You're
not.
not in the race now. You're not in the race now.
And we didn't talk about last night's game, but I suppose we'll get around to that eventually, and we'll get to their last week's game anyways. Right now, Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers.
Bears.
Seasons down the line, we're talking next season, season after that.
Bears.
Better situation, yeah. Kind
Oh,
of the
much
feeling.
better.
If you could start to put those pieces together, you still need to do a lot of work clearly on your team, but you at least have, it seems like, a good offensive scheme that you can start putting up points now. This is something that you haven't been able to do if you're the Chicago Bears. It seems to be clicking now. You could build off that.
If the Bears could really get another running back to pair with David Montgomery, and it might even be Khalil Herbert,
Yeah.
right? It looked like he was doing it for a bit this year, then he gets hurt, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Tough.
might even be him. But if you can really get another killer running back to pair with Montgomery, and you have Fields, Montgomery, and third running back really causing running issues, there's not many teams in the league that's built to play against that. There's just not. We talked about it before at how teams can struggle with the run. You can count on one hand the amount of teams that have a linebacker who's athletic enough to be able to play against a team that could run read option that well. Right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about with the Bears. You add a couple offensive line pieces, maybe another receiver to this mix, and all of a sudden that offense really looks strong. And the defense needs work, but again, pieces there on the defense that you can actually work with. I don't know what the Packers have right now. Christian Watson, maybe? He's looked really good the last couple weeks. He might be a guy.
Jones and Dillon if you could figure out what the hell you're gonna do for
But
them.
they don't use them.
Yeah, they don't. Well, I mean, but they're there, so it's like, yeah, you got something, but it's not. Yeah, not being utilized. Um, yeah, let's keep it going. But yeah, very, very interesting game there. Lions, scrappy Lions, gonna still be problems for teams at times here, and especially in that NFC North. You're gonna have some fun games. I know the Bears. I think they face the Packers still later in the season. That'll be a fun one. That'll be a few weeks down the line. We'll see.
Do you think
Hmm.
the Packers end this season as the worst team in the NFC North, record wise?
I don't think so, but it's
No.
it's not going to be a good record. I think that'll be the case. Basically, it'll be a very very disappointing like third place in the division, potentially second place
The
maybe, but like because I don't see anybody besides the Vikings having a winning record in that division. So
Nobody is, but I'll throw it out there.
yeah,
The
nobody has it
Packers,
now. That's for sure.
yeah, the Packers down the stretch have a road game against the Eagles next. Then they go to Chicago, face the Rams at home. You probably get a win there. Go to Miami, host the Vikings, host the Lions. That schedule is not fun.
Yeah, yeah.
I could see a world where the Packers end up being the worst team in the NFC North this year.
It's kind of crazy because it's and we'll get to their last week's game. It's
Yeah,
just they are just the epitome because yeah, you're coming off last week's Dallas game, you're coming off last night's Tennessee game. Uh, what the hell are these Packers? They've been mostly bad,
we'll
mostly
talk
bad with a
we'll
glimpse of good.
talk about their game last week. That
Yeah.
has very little to do with the Packers.
Um, Yeah, let's move on to that other team that the Packers faced last night, the Tennessee Titans, who were able to hold it together, still scrape out a dub against the visiting Denver Broncos. Tennessee going to 6-3 at the time, now 7-3. Denver dropping to 3-6 on the year. Tennessee scoring the 17 unanswered after Denver puts up that first 10 there. Another weirdly bad game. Like you're talking about a 50% accurate Russell Wilson who attempts 42 passes in the game. Just a touchdown to pick. Decentish yards, but this isn't the offense that is going to get it done. You put up just 10 points. A Tennessee team that they don't play very well, but they're able to still put enough of it together. Ryan Tannehill, 19 to 36, just over that 50%, 255s, but he's able to put up a couple touchdowns in there. And yeah,
Didn't throw a
Titans,
pick.
Titans
It's
get it
a
done.
listen. If you let Ryan Tannehill throw like this on you, you need to be. That's a fireable offense. I'm sorry. There's two coaches in the last what was it, 5 6 days who should have been fired based off of Ryan Tannehill lighting him up. Uh, it, I don't know what to say about Denver and Nate Hackett anymore that hasn't already been said. The only reason Nate Hackett's not talked about more is because Josh McDaniels is in the same fucking league.
Yeah, same division. Yeah,
The whole thing's a mess. And the worst part about it is like, so you look at, there are certain teams out there that you look at them as like kind of messes, right? You look at the Packers even. The Bears are a little bit of a mess though. They look like they're starting to figure some stuff out, right? Um, the Titans are, or the Texans rather, are a mess. They have draft picks at least. You've mortgaged the farm on Russell Wilson. You got nothing.
yeah.
There's not even a future that comes from this. It's bad.
Yeah, I mean this was a very winnable game too because you have a like I know going into this game Tennessee a little bit dinged up.
Yeah.
Like you end up bringing in a guy, and I almost like that he was going there, especially because of how Miami Dolphins were utilizing their backfield. All of a sudden, you get Chase Edmonds in this backfield, which is very uncertain for you as the Broncos, and they don't utilize him at fucking all. Cortland Sutton,
Ruckus.
I know you didn't sign up for this shit. Apparently, I was hearing a story. Some I read from oddly enough, a uh, former Broncos and I want to say also Titans offensive lineman. He is some podcast, but I think he actually played oddly enough for both these teams. But earlier this week, talking about how he got a little inside information that Russell's still using
The
uh,
Seattle Audibles.
audibles from Seattle. And, like his team is like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Um, so I mean, yeah, everything pointing toward you know they're in absolute shambles. If they needed a win, they got an ideal setup. We'll talk about the game later, but they got Vegas coming in on the road this week. If there's a chance they could get a win to like make themselves, feel a little bit better about themselves, then this next week coming up is it. But it's it's a bad team. This is the clearly worst offense, and it's absolutely handcuffing the absolute one of, if not the best defense in the NFL right now. It's a
Definitely
fucking
top
shame.
10 on your probably top five.
I've seen this story before. I've seen
Yeah.
this story before as a Niners fan. The absolute best defense, and your offense can't put up more than fucking 10 points. They barely had anything going. Like, no
Yeah.
team has anything going against this Denver Broncos offense. They're able to just put up 17 points, and if that's enough to beat you week in and week out, can't do it. Can't win with them. Can't.
This offense makes the Iowa Hawkeyes offense look like the Kansas City
Shit,
Chiefs.
if they're not the Iowa Hawkeyes of the NFL, that's for damn sure.
Um,
Elevation's
Reed
all out of
Cortland
whack, but
Sutton. That dude's so much better than this.
I went, very similarly shaped states. Obviously, you got the
Yeah,
rectangles.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm seeing it now. Colorado, Iowa. Yeah, yeah. All
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
pretty close to each other.
It's bad.
Yeah,
There's just nothing else to say. It's just at least with Vegas, it's like a comedy. It's so bad, and they find innovative ways to shoot themselves in the foot and lose games. Denver it's just sad.
yeah. Other thing I'll say about this game, and you're gonna have to help me with this last name, Nick Westbrook Ikine. What the hell?
Um,
Wherever the hell he came from, good on you. Because literally, like, if you could make an impact on this receiving core for the Tennessee Titans, like they need more of that right now. You know, Burks, Woods, you get a little something out of them. I suppose you get Austin Hooper every now and then, but if he has more games like that, I don't know how he did last night. I don't think he did too much last night, but great game out of him, obviously.
yeah, I believe it's Akine, by the way. I believe it's
Keeney,
Nick Westbrook Akine.
thank you.
Um, I'd love to tell you all about how great he was in college and stuff like that. He went to Indiana. I didn't watch many of those games. I don't know. He
Yeah,
stats were fine.
did all right enough, and
It's weirdly enough one of the college guys that I know absolutely nothing
there
about.
you go. And speaking of doing just well enough, we'll go to Jacksonville going into Kansas City. Kansas City winning by 10. The line was minus 9.5, so they did just enough to get us that win. If you pick the Chiefs on this one, very typical Chiefs performance on this one. Mahomes 331, 4 tutties, had a pick in there. They seem to be getting some nice production out of Pacheco when they decided to use him.
Yeah.
So you got 82 yards there. Jacksonville just outmatched right off the bat. They were down 20-0 almost before the end of the half. Jacksonville able to claw back with a touchdown. And actually gets this game within 10 early in the or not early, but into the third quarter. But yeah, just not
It's always
enough.
as close as they were going to get.
Just not quite
Listen,
enough.
Jacksonville's got some pieces, right? We know that. Obviously, you have ETN, who's good. Trevor Lawrence is obviously a talented quarterback. Christian Kirk actually finally looking like a number one receiver in a game. Must have been nice. Um, it needs work. It needs a lot of work. and everybody knows that. So yeah, you know you play a competitive-ish game with the Chiefs. I say ish because as competitive as the scoreline looks, it was never going to get any closer than that.
No.
Never. It always looked like the Chiefs had another gear they could go up to if they wanted. Instead, they just decided to play this thing on a little bit of cruise, kill it out. Right? It's just one of those things where the Jaguars, you just got to keep building. Right? You have a few pieces here and there. Bring in some more, figure this thing out. You'll be okay in the future, but this is the life of being a team who's not quite there yet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't really agree more with that. Yeah. Jacksonville pieces just not enough, and they spend too much now. So you wonder like how much they're able to really build, but yeah, we'll see with them going forward. Uh, Another team that's you know seemingly they're the ones who have maybe spent a lot this the off season, but seem to have made all the right moves, and even some of these moves in the middle of the season as well. We're talking about those Miami Dolphins, leaders in the AFC East at 7-3. They hosted Cleveland last weekend. Cleveland falling to them, going down to 3-6, a 39-17 win. Miami handling business pretty well from beginning to end of the game. Um, Two up, 285, three tutties on 25-32 passing. Really nice there. Brissett doing a decent job, 212 and a tutty on his end as well. Star of this probably will stand out as Jeff Wilson Jr. and Raheem Mostert. This is basically right now. Mike McDaniel has this team. They are every bit of San Francisco East right now. This is the
The
Niners
Miami
East.
49ers.
This is you know
They're even running Alec Ingold like Kyle Juszczyk.
and I was actually going to bring up Alec Ingold. Alec Ingold is one of the true fullbacks still in this league that
Yep.
operates. Miami made sure they got a guy like that because you still have Mike McDaniel who wants to run offense through that.
Yep.
Absolutely. This is it's been a little rocky here, point here and there for this team. I mean, yeah, you even got like old Niner Trent Sherfield
I'm
like
sure
doing work
Fields
for this.
going off. I
So
was gonna say he was a former Niner too, right?
pretty crazy how this team's operating. They really seem to be finding their stride again after kind of having that stumble, in that first third or half of the season. Just not looking quite the same. Seem to have it back now. Browns, not too much to say there. They're gonna have these kind of games against just kind of clearly better opponents. Brissett, it started to fade now. Like he was getting it done. He was looking surprisingly good early in the season, but that's only kept up for so long.
Yeah.
And now we have Watson back and practicing, so I suppose it's only a matter of time since till we're gonna maybe see some of that. Who knows as far as that and how much of a difference that's going to make. I don't feel it's enough for this Cleveland team.
No.
And Miami. I mean, with the way it's gone, Buffalo obviously, having just taken that tough loss. Um, they're thinking, why not? Why not us for winning this division right now? Pretty impressive in that regard, considering they are in just that absolute cutthroat AFC East division. If you win that division, you're damn good. Like, I don't think there's any way to get around that.
Yeah, especially now that this year, even the Jets look like they're a fucking tough team to beat.
Yeah.
The New
Pats,
England
yeah.
Patriots, they're not going away. They've been tough for everybody, right? And they're gonna keep being tough for teams, despite the fact that of the four teams, they're clearly the least talented, I think. Right? You look at that Jets defense and it's easy to see the talent that's there. Obviously, Buffalo and Miami have those high powered offenses. I don't think on either side of the ball the Patriots can match those teams talent wise, but they play hard, right? They're not going anywhere. They're going to be a tough out every week, and it's it's just one of those things where the team who comes out of that is gonna probably be the favorite in the AFC. I'd imagine. I know it's hard to say that it's not the Chiefs right now, but you gotta imagine whoever's coming out of there is coming out of there battle tested.
Kind of the. I mean, yeah, that's just it exactly. Battle test is a great way to put it. It's you are going to be very prepared. Like your record might not be great. You're probably playing a first round game because you're
Yep.
not going to be able to get one of those buy. Actually, it's only one buy now, um, but you're playing a home game probably, and uh, you're you know, I guess that's the only thing though is when you're in a tough division like that, you're probably playing your starters through those end weeks. Unless you get that couple game separation, you kind of need to secure a home game versus an away game perhaps. So uh, gonna be kind of going on no rest, but Dolphins have been doing decent. They've been a little dinged up on in that end, but not too bad. Um, I would say for the other teams, man, I mean, yeah, your Tavarius for the Bills. That's like I think that's an injury that's still like the ripples of not having a guy like that for as long as you did as Buffalo. I'm not too sure what his status is now, but yeah, just yeah, the ability to stay healthy is going to be huge for these teams in this division.
Yeah, Tre'Davious White's still out.
Yeah,
Um, like he's getting closer, but they're not gonna risk him unless he's 100, right? Which probably smart. Um,
yeah,
it's just you gotta wonder how long is it gonna be? He was activated a couple weeks ago, still not back.
yeah. I
That's a
think
big one, right? Like that's your guy at cornerback, and that's something the Bills desperately need right now is a guy to just be a shutdown corner, right? We've seen what it's done to the Jets defense with Sauce Gardner, right? Tre'Davious White is that guy, right? So you get him back, and that's a huge addition for the Bills. Obviously, the Dolphins right now they don't have much injury issues, and they're pretty much firing, right? Let's be honest. This team is just on all cylinders right now. The Jets are a sneaky good team. And like I said, the Pats are going to play you hard. I feel like there's two ways of looking at this division right now, which is yes, you're right. You're going to have to play your starters the whole way through. But you're going to be way more ready for those big time playoff games than, say, Kansas City is, who at this point is going to be probably cruise controlling through a shockingly bad AFC West.
all right.
um, Now, mind you, it is Kansas City, so they have the experience of doing it before. But like Baltimore, for example, would be another team who probably going to be a little bit more ready for those big games, right? Even if they're on the road, right? Let's say the Dolphins win the AFC East. The Ravens end up taking the 1 seed. Do you think the Dolphins are scared going to Baltimore, having won the AFC East, meaning they went through Buffalo, through New York,
Oh no,
won those games? I don't think Baltimore would be a threatening environment for them.
no. I think the one thing you'll have to at that point it will be very interesting because yeah, what is this Jets team gonna look like when you have a perhaps more comfortable James Robinson along with Zach Wilson. Zach he's been back for a bit of time here, obviously. Um, I wonder, yeah, the injuries that you've had with like I think Elijah Moore all of a sudden he's injured now. Uh, I don't know. I like the the tight ends there. Basically, I think the Jets have more to grow in that offensive space, uh,
Yeah,
and their defense is damn good enough. I don't know what you get necessarily anything different out of what Baltimore has. I think we've kind of seen what this team plays like at its peak on offense. It's good, obviously, but we kind of
flawed.
know it.
It's flawed. It's good with some clear holes in it, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously if they get the run game going on you and Lamar gets moving, they're tough to stop. But if you can keep Lamar in the pocket, his pass accuracy this year has not been good, especially on mid-range to long to deep balls, right? So if it there's a blueprint to beating the Ravens, I think. And I think in particular, the Ravens right now are looking at this at the way everything's shaping up and begging the gods to not play the Jets in the first round. That Jets defense shapes up as a matchup nightmare for the Ravens.
Yeah.
And I think that's the like they'll probably be looking at the wild card picture right now, looking like, yeah, obviously you don't want to play the Bills. But like if we get the Chargers or even the Bengals, the Colts, we're comfortable with what we can do against those teams. The Jets offer a matchup nightmare for the Ravens. And even though I think talent wise, like you look at that Ravens offense, talent wise is obviously at a higher point than the Jets offense. That defensive matchup is just brutal for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's keep it in that. We're talking about some AFC. I mean AFC North right there, but we were talking about the Jets. Let's move it over to the NFC East, and the Giants playing host to the Texans last weekend, able to pull out the win in the second half there, 24-16, going to 7-2 on the year, holding down that second spot in a very, very surprising NFC East as far as the win-loss records are concerned there. Uh, Daniel Jones keeping it simple. That offense keeping it simple. 17 pass attempts for 197, 2 touchdowns. That's perfectly fine. Rushing Saquon Barkley 35 times for 152 yards and a touchdown there. They know what they want to do in that regard, and it was just going to be run the ball consistently at them. It eventually started working as this game got on and on. And recipe, obviously, for the Giants. You know what their good games are going to look like,
Yeah.
and they're going to have a lot of running. You probably are even going to see a little bit more of a rushing game out of Daniel Jones in their very good games, obviously. But all you needed was quads this week
Yeah, they
to
didn't
get it
need
done.
Daniel Jones this
Absolutely
week.
insane.
Um, yeah, we said it when we were talking about this game last week, right? The Giants are really good at letting other teams shoot themselves in the foot and take advantage of it. This game was within reach for the Texans for a little bit, and then they did Texans things. Bad pick by Davis Mills, starting to really just get off time on offense, and the Giants took advantage, right? They're really what the Giants do best has very little to actually do with the Giants' play, and has more to do with the fact that they don't make mistakes. So teams that do make mistakes are going to be punished hard by the Giants. This is a team that you can't afford to be turning the ball over. You can't afford to be missing convertible third downs and all those little mistakes that over the course of a game against some teams you can get away with. You only need a couple of those against the Giants before it really comes back to haunt you. And what looks like a winnable game now all of a sudden is an 8-point win for the Giants. And what ended up being a fairly comfortable 8-point win at the end of the day for the Giants. They did what they've done all season, and they will keep doing it. There's no reason to believe this Giants team is anything other than what we see it as, right? Which is they are a good team who do not make mistakes. They will run the ball on you. They have a quarterback who has all of a sudden become shockingly accurate. Daniel Jones doesn't miss many passes anymore,
Right.
right? When they ask Daniel Jones to throw the ball, he does it effectively
Yeah.
because they don't ask him to do it much, right? They've simplified this offense for him. It's like when we ask you to throw the ball, we're gonna keep the route simple. We're gonna ask you to hit your guys. We're not gonna ask you to do anything crazy, and we're gonna run the ball a lot. And Daniel Jones, obviously, I think there was the in-game audio of Saquon Barkley calling him Vanilla Vic. Like that's he's got that speed, man. It's not Matt Ryan running the ball back there. He is scary quick when he gets on the Jets, and they just they got ways to beat you, and they let you beat yourself, and that's generally what good teams do.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, yeah, exactly. You're doing, just enough in, I would, the first half. They actually start out this game with a nice touchdown drive. Don't make too many waves otherwise. But then, because this game goes 7-3 into the half,
Yeah.
um, so anybody's game. Start out third quarter. They go touchdown. Texans go drive down for a touchdown real quick. Giants come right back and score another touchdown. It's back and forth. All of a sudden, the offenses are firing here. Going into the fourth quarter, looks like Texans are going to do the same damn thing, and they're just driving down the field. Fumble. Unfortunate. Happens from time to time.
Yep.
Giants go immediately 3-and-out, and they don't really flip field position by any means.
No.
I think Texans get this ball back around the 50.
It ends up being a pretty not great punt from Cameron Johnston that I think keeps them in a good spot.
Yeah. The Texans, having set up, looking like they're going to drive back, still have this game within 11 points, then make that critical mistake. They then another turnover, an interception for the Texans. You don't get much more offense or anything out of the Giants after that. They literally 7 plays, 25 yards, and punt,
Yep.
and then a 4-play, 8-yard field goal drive. But at that point, it was too late.
It was over.
You couldn't do too much. And then just the weirdest fucking decision. I don't know why you. I mean, I suppose it gets you within 8, but I think as far as the downs were concerned, yeah, they kicked that field goal. Well, but second and 20. Now I kind of see why they kicked the field goal maybe toward the end of the game. Because it's like, well, are we really getting it on that extra 10 yards? No, kick the field goal, put it within one possession. At that point,
Prior to the onside kick.
yeah, you have
Yeah.
little no chance. You still need to get the onside kick regardless. You
Yeah.
at least still have time to do that, I suppose, with the field goal. So
Yeah, I actually really liked. I thought that was a really smart decision
yeah.
by the Texans to just go, hey, listen, this drive is stalled. We are in field goal range. We trust Fairbairn to hit this. Let's get it through the uprights. Let's get that onside kick. Let's try to give ourselves enough time to have a chance. I like the fact that they didn't beat their head against the wall on that one. They get into the second and 20 and they go, hey, let's just, we need this field goal anyways. Let's just get it in.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like there's a few too many times where guys feel like they need to use all their downs, and it's like this was a case where they didn't get that field goal through, and let's go to the onside kick.
Yeah, and Giants. People have been shaky on them. Not too sure they're really deserving a 7-2. They're winning the games in front of them, obviously, and that's all they can really do. Not always against the greatest opponents. Only an 8-point win against the probably worst in the league Texans team, or one of the worst. But yeah, still get it done. Don't make the mistakes, and you get out of there with the win. So nicely done.
They do have two pretty nice scalps on their resume, though, when you look at the Titans and Ravens, right? Like,
Sure, yeah.
you can say what you want about, like, the resume, and you can only play what's in front of you, and that's true. But it's not like they haven't beaten good teams when they've played them. Yeah, they've lost to the Cowboys, and they lost to the Seahawks, who are a couple of other pretty decent teams on their resume, but they've...
God convinced me, man. I've been on this Giants hype train the whole year.
You beat the Titans, you beat the Ravens. You've proven you can beat good teams, right? Again, it's all going to come down to the Giants will beat teams who will make mistakes. The way you beat the Giants is you play as clean as possible, right? You don't need to be 100% clean. You're never going to play a 100% clean game. But it's when, like, you look at that Ravens game, Lamar's missing wide open guys on third down consistently. They fumble the ball a couple of times, right? You start making mistakes like that, Giants are going to catch you every time. This is a team that's just not going to make that many mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's keep it going. Keep moving. You know what? I don't have much for this week. For this game. New Orleans going into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh taking the win 20-10 against New Orleans. Both now 3-win teams. You do have the return of TJ Watt for the Steelers. A little bit of something there to go on for them. Uh, all right game from Pickett. Nodge actually getting almost 100 yards there. Kind of surprising in that regard for the Steelers. Uh, Another tough one for Andy Dalton. Looks rough out there. And you had a great game, I think, the week before for Alvin Kamara for the Saints, and just nothing doing this past weekend. So, yeah, tough one for New Orleans, but kind of to be expected. This team, yeah, they're not looking too hot, obviously, in that South, being the worst in that division. And really, you gotta kind of think the same thing about the Steelers. I mean, it's nice that they get the dub here, but you're pretty much fighting for Cleveland right now as far as not being the worst team in that division. But yeah,
That Steelers offensive line is embarrassingly bad. It's watching a Steelers game and watching how quickly guys get through that offensive line is hard, man. Um, at what point as the Saints do you just start running Kenny Taysom Hill as your guy and just go, let's see if we can maybe make like a weird entirely gadget playbook work? At this point, it's not Dalton. I don't know if Jameis is ready to go, or even if they want to give Jameis another run. He's been the only quarterback you've had in the last couple of years who's shown a stretch of being a good quarterback.
yeah,
At this point, why not run out Taysom? See if you can maybe get something working there.
right.
He's had some moments this year where you see the athleticism and you see, he does some stuff on offense. He's not his throws don't look awful. He's not throwing up ducks. Like he's got a little bit of an arm.
I don't know. I mean, I suppose you can go for anything at this point, but I mean,
That's my thought, right? Is
they're
like
they're not winning this game regardless. Like if you take a look at some
no,
of these, you take a
they're
look at
not
some.
winning any game
Well,
regardless. But
no,
you might
but
as well try the Taysom Hill thing.
against the Steelers, here's some of these, dude. Steelers 28 first downs on the day. That's actually a very impressive number for
Yes.
this offense. 10 for the Saints. They go 3 of 12 on third downs, which actually isn't the most egregious number, but it's still a lot of,
Yeah.
shows how many third downs they end up actually facing. 10 penalties on the day for the Saints. Like, it was all around just awful, basically. The only saving grace is, yeah, you don't get your quarterback absolutely killed. You only get sacked twice compared to the Steelers giving up 6 sacks. Poor Kenny Pickett back there having to, take
Run
those
for
hits
his
all
life.
day.
Yeah.
That's not any fun. But yeah, yeah, for the Saints, I don't know. What do you? I suppose you're still hoping you're getting reps. You're getting experience for a guy like a Chris Olave.
He looks like a bit of a guy.
Yeah, so you got that going for you, right? You got uh, yeah. You always have the little wrinkle, obviously, of a Taysom. When it works out, obviously, Kamara could be a beast, but yeah, it's pretty thin, uh, thin Pickens basically. George Pickens on the other side.
Uh,
But yeah, not great. Look, really really bad loss across the board for this Saints team, and it's probably just going to be a little bit more like this through the end of the season. I think they've shown us now. It's like there was a point maybe early on with Jameis. I know he had like an early game there, right? Week 1 or something like that, where he
Well,
was
and obviously Jameis from last season, right?
right.
Before he got hurt, he was talking the ball, man. He looked great.
Yeah.
And then he had the first game of the season, he comes out, he looks great, and he hasn't really gotten back to that form since.
Yeah. Um,
Um, I think we're about to move on to a team that's actually worse than the Saints, though. So should we talk about them?
yeah, let's go ahead and talk about them. The Indianapolis Colts going into Vegas to face the Raiders. They end up getting the win. A oddly as far as how the scoring worked out, a lot of missed 2 point conversions, from what I remember in this game
Yeah,
as I was watching it. But 25-20, Colts end up going up to 4-5-1 on the seasons. Raiders fall to 2-7. I think the second worst record, barely better than the Texans.
yeah,
But
who are 1-7-1.
I think yeah, they're like the only other team with 2 wins on the season. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, there you are. Yeah, you saw maybe a little bit of something out of Derek Carr, able to find that find those hookups again with a Devonte Adams, but that's the only connection they seem to have. You get a little bit of work from Josh Jacobs here, but yeah, this is a Colts team that was obviously kind of reeling. They just fired in back-to-back weekends or weeks their offensive kind of, not even their coordinator, but like their planner, whoever the hell that guy was before Frank Reich. Then they
Marcus
just
Brady.
then they just fire Frank Reich, and you have Jeff Saturday coming in from the prognosticators table, right out of ESPN, and yeah, leans on his guys who are actually able to call some plays, and they get this win. Jonathan Taylor, hey, looking like that number 1 pick back we kind of leaned on. Yeah. Might be both of us that have him in leagues that would like to see him do a little bit better like this. So it's a good thing. Hey,
That's listen. I'm sorry if you let Matt Ryan run for a 40-yard run on you.
yeah,
Fire your team.
yeah, that was, and it's the funny thing on that play is like he should have only got like 5 yards on it because
He has negative speed.
yeah, the the outside like linebacker or corner,
Yeah.
whoever the hell it is, he sees him coming, but like for some reason, like bites back to cover on the inside
Yeah.
instead of just making sure that the quarterback just doesn't have a complete open lane. And yeah, that one was hilarious. Some decent blocking down the field too, and yeah, all of a sudden, Matt Ryan's picking up some big yards, 39 yards, fucking hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know. What can we say at this point? All right. There's nothing much you can say anymore about this Raiders team. It's embarrassing. You're embarrassing yourselves. Stop it. Get help.
I the one thing I would say that it's very very telling for the Raiders, and I this is the thing. I think everybody felt like the Raiders were going to be the 4th team in this division,
Yeah.
but this was going to be like a 8-win 4th in the division. Like they're still going to be scrappy. There's too much talent, that sort of thing. But for it to just not have worked out in any stretch, it's amazing that it like even the Jags moves look like better moves than what the Raiders did this offseason. The Raiders didn't do that much, but it's like, yeah, you get a little bit of flash out of a Devonte Adams or something like that from time to time, and I guess that's worth it. But yeah, Chandler Jones, he
Looks
ain't doing,
awful.
yeah, he's not doing shit for you. It just Max Crosby, he, for as electric as he was, that sort of thing, and he's still able to do a little bit of work. It looks like he actually had a
Uh,
decent tackle total, but
Max
he's not anything
Max
of
Crosby's been trying.
but it's nothing like what he was last year. He's
No, but he's still got 7 sacks and what is it, 40 combined tackles, something like that? 57 combined tackles? Like,
Not bad for
that's
an edge,
good
but
stats.
yeah,
It's not Max Crosby from last year, Max Crosby, but on this defense that looks like a fucking joke most nights, that's good stats.
yeah, um, yeah, yeah. Just the Raiders, they're not getting it done this year. That's for damn sure. And the Colts, you know, pulling it one together for Saturday on a Sunday. We'll see how they keep going forward. We'll give our prediction for that game coming up here. Let's keep it moving though, and we hit upon this team a little bit. We will talk about them more for last night's game, so we can just hit upon this one quickly. But the Green Bay Packers hosting the Dallas Cowboys and pull it together in overtime, taking the win. Um, this one was the emergence, and I think we saw a little bit of that last night as well.
Yeah.
The Christian Watson emergence, which is nice to see because you got really nothing else to go on for this Packers team. This game did do all right. Rodgers 14 of 20, 224, three tutties. That's pretty efficient stuff. But yeah, Aaron Jones getting back to it. AJ Dillon picking up yards when he could. So this was kind of a little bit more of that all-rounder game you're hoping to see from the Packers. And yeah, Dallas, I know, yeah, Dak made some pretty poor decisions on his picks there. And yeah, just some silly mistakes. They still had a chance toward the end of this game, and I just couldn't put it together.
Mike McCarthy the hell out of this game. Dak made a couple bad throws, granted. And, I'll give the Packers their props. They've finally ran the correct game plan. Don't make Rodgers throw the ball 60 times. Let your really good running backs run the ball, and good things will happen. That's what happened. Mike, buddy, you have Brett Maher. He's like really good. Kick the field goal, dude. Why are you going for it on 4th and 5 in overtime?
Yeah.
At least try to make the Packers' job a little bit harder. Instead, you turn the ball over at midfield. It was like the Packers 35. Game over. They only needed like 10, 15 yards to get it into, or no, a little bit more than that. I think they needed like 25, 30 yards to get it into range for Mason Crosby. They did that in like one play. It Mike McCarthy does this way too often. And there was more Mike McCarthy badness in this game than just that. But that's the example that everybody's going to point out. His play calling is generally quite awful. But that's the one that is easy to pick out. And he does this all the time, where he thinks he is playing 3D chess. But you're not. But we were playing backgammon the whole time, and you're trying to move your queen, and that's not how the game works. Like you're playing, you're not even close. We're not even playing checkers. You're so far away from the game that we're playing. We're like playing backgammon over here. You're like knight to e6, and
Yeah.
we're all very confused by it.
But yeah.
It just
Yeah, it could be analysis paralysis, right? Like you're trying to
yeah
be so fucking crafty that you're not just taking what's obvious and right in front of you,
yeah
and that's the best play a lot of the time. Especially like it's kind of funny because I think football is a great. It's like a great clash of like it's really trying to outplay the other side and like your
yes
defense against my offense and yeah, how are we gonna and you have to coordinate this entire team and use personnel and all that. But at the end of the day, it's pretty fucking simple as far as some of these like what you're having to do on the field. You need to run your route correctly. You need to make sure to block this guy. And if you're the play caller, just give yourself the it's better to have the simplest route and make sure
yeah
that you're successful than overcomplicate it and try to get that same level of success. It doesn't have to be that complicated, basically.
Especially you have a guy like CeeDee Lamb, you have Dalton Schultz, you have Michael Gallup. This is a team that has talent. It's not a team where you've got to try to get creative and fancy to win game. Just use your talent. Tony Pollard's a fucking machine, right? You have CeeDee Lamb, you have Dalton Schultz, you have a quarterback in Dak Prescott who, yeah, couple mistakes in this game, doesn't quite look back up to speed yet. He's still a very good quarterback. Like,
Yep.
just use what you have. Stop trying to make it harder than it has to be. You're not the Detroit Lions. You don't have to work around a bunch of handicaps and try to create something new out of this to make everything work. Just do what you're good at.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I feel like there's sometimes it's kind of a, okay, yeah, silly mistakes with like timeouts and time management, that sort of thing. But yeah, sometimes it just really comes down to play calling, and ultimately McCarthy's going to have the responsibility for that.
Yeah.
Um, let's keep it going.
And
Oh,
I will say this too. If it's Kellen Moore, then take the playbook for you're the coach. Right? Like, at the end of the day, if you're going, well, because I've heard that a lot too, when people go, oh, well, it's Kellen Moore who calls the plays. A, I don't think he calls the defensive plays, which were shambles at times for you last week. But B, if it is, then take the book from him. Fire him. Because you're clearly not running your offense well enough. You're way too talented for shit like this, and these games happen way too often for the Cowboys.
yeah. I mean, like, it's not. I don't think it's like fire people panic mode quite yet. This is still a 6-3 football team that's been pretty damn good most of the year. They're a big threat, and obviously, you know, they're gonna have potentially some offensive struggles. They do typically have played a pretty goddamn good defensive game. To give up a 31 spot against this Packers team. This Packers team has played really bad defenses and they can't put up 31 points. So this was a weird one. This one was absolutely a weird one.
It happens
I
too
wonder if we.
consistently under Mike McCarthy for me to put it off to the side.
I would
Over
say
the course of his career.
career exactly. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
I would agree with that. But right now within the season, like this game was. I don't think you play this game again. It turns out anything like this. I
No,
mean,
probably not.
on a talent level, and if this is played later in the season or something like that,
Yeah.
very wild game. Packers haven't been able to put up 31 points against just about every. I don't know if they put up 30 plus in any game otherwise this season. Maybe one other, I think.
They have not. Their season high going into that game was 27.
Yeah. So. Hey, perfect.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, 27.
Speaking of 27, that was the winning score in the next game that we're going to be covering right here. The Arizona Cardinals going into Los Angeles to face off against the Rams. Rams only getting 17 points, Cardinals getting 27, and both teams now 6 losses on the year. You have something on this one, Craig?
I would like to clarify something.
Oh, yes.
When I picked this game,
Ah, yes.
I picked Matthew Stafford
Yes.
against Kyler Murray. I was not picking Colt McCoy against John Wolford.
That's right.
I could have told you Colt McCoy's a better quarterback than John Wolford.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
actually quite like Colt McCoy on a whole. I think as a backup,
mean,
he's a damn good backup.
Yeah, I mean he
Uh,
fucking won games for this team for sure. Like
and here's the thing too. It's not like they had Colt McCoy in there and went, okay, we're gonna really conserve this playbook. And they had Colt McCoy slinging, man, and he slung the ball pretty damn decently for a backup who, let's face it, probably didn't think he was starting until about Thursday.
yeah, I mean more or less. I mean yeah, it's not like Colt McCoy hasn't thrown to DeAndre Hopkins or Rondale
Yeah,
Moore before, so
yeah.
that's nice. A little familiarity in that regard. I suppose. Yeah, even I'm trying to think as far as James Conner even getting like any tenure with this at the same time. But yeah, I mean Cardinals taking advantage of the situation at hand basically, and yeah, the Rams. Holy shit. Uh, I mean, there's been some fall offs. Not there's been some fall offs from some Super Bowl teams. It's not always been immediately into the playoffs the next year. This might be one of the most like the combination of I feel like a lot of their stuff just doesn't really work anymore. The fall off of being able to run the ball effectively whatsoever. The injuries that they've had, just the whole combo is it's devastating. This is one of the worst fall offs I feel after a Super Bowl win that I've seen for a team. It's like yeah, you got it, but you paid for it, I guess. But you got the Super Bowl. They at least get to claim that. You can never take that one away from them. But it doesn't look good now in LA.
The 2018 Eagles, I remember them being pretty bad.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Um, the 2000 Broncos, but that one's not really fair because Elway retired after winning that one, and
Yeah.
they had Brian Greasy at quarterback.
Right.
Um, the Niners, I think, had a season where they won a Super Bowl and came back and missed the playoffs, but I don't think they were anywhere near this bad. Um, yeah, it feels like usually you can pin a reason to it too. Like I said, right? Like both the Broncos teams went the I think it was 99 2000 Broncos and then the 2016 Broncos after Peyton retired. But you've lost star quarterbacks and I'm now playing Brian Greasy and Paxton Lynch,
No.
right? And like there's always something you can trace back to it, right? The Giants went 7-9 the year after winning their Super Bowl, but to be fair, that was only one loss worse than they were in the season before, right? Um like it's not like the Giants were a great team. They had a run that was miraculous and they kind of just played back to the median in the season. This is the weirdest one. This is because the pieces are still more or less all like yeah, you're missing Robert Woods. That is a big loss, but I don't think it's big of a loss where you fall off a cliff, right? And you can say they're also missing Von Miller, but he wasn't there at the first half of the season last year when this was still a very good team. I don't know. I don't know how to describe what is going on in in LA.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
St.
You're
Louis.
getting cursed for winning a Super Bowl outside of St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean exactly. You still have the devil on that one. Yeah, it's and now you've only gotten worse. You now have Cooper Cup on the IR. That was like your only offensive weapon, basically. At times you've had Higby and he'd had an all right game in this past one, despite how bad everything else went. But he's had some horrific. He had a stretch of horrific games after looking like kind of the only other option along with Cooper Cup. So they're in a tough situation. It doesn't matter if it's Wolford or Stafford or whoever the fuck you have back there at quarterback. Your offensive line is still beat to absolute hell. That hasn't
Yeah.
changed. You
That
have
is a big part of it too. Andrew Whitworth not being there anymore is a big part of their offensive line kind of falling apart.
Whitworth, and then they lost all their good
Yeah.
interior linemen.
Yeah.
So
Obviously injuries haven't helped them any with the but like
yeah,
man, losing
it's been
Andrew
tough.
Whitworth on that tackle position is a
I
big
will
loss.
say with the injury luck and who they've already lost, that sort of thing, like who they were already going to have to rely on as
Yeah.
far as like players to pick up the pieces. With the players that you mentioned that they've already lost, that was already going to be a bit of a pickup that they had to do. But yeah, now you're going down that depth chart even lower. you're having essentially the equivalent of who were potentially your second or your third string guys are your starters now, and yeah, it's gonna be tough for any team. You don't have any real confidence, I think, in either of these backs right now. I mean, Cam Akers is still on this team somehow, even though it was looking like there was no chance he was gonna be on this team. Now he still is, and it's like, okay, we'll hand the ball off to you, I guess, from time to time. Henderson and Wolf, yeah, split these carries with them, but yeah, that's about it. Allen Robinson has been a complete bust to kind of fill that wide receiver space for you. That relationship hasn't developed as
Yeah.
far as between Stafford and Robinson ultimately just gelling with this their play calling. He's made some bad mistakes when he's been out there. On the other side, it's not like this Cardinals team's looked anything good. They've been a pretty bad team themselves, but they look great against this Rams team. That kind of goes to show you how much it's fallen off for the Rams.
Yeah, I don't know. Uh, I just all I could think of after watching this game, and I'll leave this game with this, is I saw somebody post the Seinfeld meme about Cam Akers, and it's like, why did Naheem Hines get traded? Because he's good. What about me? You're not. It's like there you go. I, I Cam Akers just isn't worth the baggage he brings.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I don't. I mean, what value you getting out of that guy right now? You're not getting anything that's different than what you're getting out of Darrell Henderson. Why not?
Yeah,
Just stick
yeah.
with that. I figured they made this decision a while ago, but for some
That's
reason
what I thought too.
we're still here, and we're still looking at this team run the ball 12 times for about 40 something yards and do nothing otherwise. uh, but they're keeping it interesting down there at the bottom of the NFC West. Let's go to the team at the right there fighting at the top of the NFC West. It's not that much distance, but it's, whatever. San Francisco 49ers hosting the Chargers on Sunday Night Football in Santa Clara. 22-16 win for the Niners. A little bit I would argue, this is gonna sound homerism, but you watched the game too, I believe, right? You were there with us when we were watching this, or
Watched the first little bit of it. Had soccer practice. Was
that's
able to
right,
catch up
yeah,
right
the
after.
practice. Okay, but watching this game, I mean, Niners look good. They just did this thing again to where like they're not putting up the
Yeah,
points like they need to. They are dominant,
yeah,
but uh, it's not reflected in that scoreboard until you start getting toward the end. But yeah, uh, after the first half, I think Chargers got all 50 yards against this team. A
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
3-and-outs, scored no points. So um, a solid
That
shutdown by the Niners, but they should have easily put up 30 something on this team, this Chargers team.
and when you said it's gonna sound homerish, I was like, uh-oh, here we go. Here's Tap gonna try to explain away the problems. I think you hit the nail on the head with what the problem is with this Niners team. They just, for whatever reason, they can't score. And, you know, the Chargers right now are a mess of injuries and all that stuff, and you can get away with that against the Chargers. You can't play this same game against the top teams. You'll lose them. These are games that you lose against the top teams when you're dominant, and it's like, ah, we really should have won this, but we just couldn't score. And it's not like this is a new problem for the Niners, right? It's honestly the problem that led them to losing a couple weeks ago against who was that stupid game that they lost that they shouldn't have never lost? The one was it the one before the Chiefs game, the Falcons game.
Oh yeah, yeah,
They were
Falcons.
better than the Falcons that whole game.
Right.
Couldn't score.
Yeah, and
Made
and they're the losses that are going to haunt you as you're going through the season because right now you're barely over
yeah,
500. This team, no reason. Um, they shouldn't have lost against Denver. They slacked off on that. Chicago, week one this season. If they got business taken care of in that first half like they should have, the crazy monsoon that they had to play through in the second half isn't the factor.
yeah,
They
it's
would already had it
irrelevant.
at that point. So it's
Yep.
it's missed opportunities absolutely on the offensive side. It's been their case for a while. Um, you can only ask your defense to hold up so much. Um, that being said, it's not like this team can't like absolutely start getting better with this. Obviously, McCaffrey,
Oh,
he's
of
only
course.
been around for so long. You just got who I feel, got lost in the shuffle with the craziness of having a guy like Christian McCaffrey. And I think obviously, it's known the factor he has. I'm a huge Eli Mitchell fan, and I like the fact that it looks like they are going to still have him get a good, healthy amount of carries in that offense. He runs really nicely. He's a one cut. He runs downhill. He'll get you a solid 8-9 every time. And that's exactly how this offense is going to operate. They move the ball down the field as good as anybody. Um, you're still going to want to do that if you're the Niners. It's going to be time of possession. It's going to be you know kind of grinding down the defense a bit by running the ball as much as you do, and yeah, set yourself up for those
Yeah.
second and twos and shit like that. You're going to be beautiful. Then you start to layer in the unique play calling that you get with the guys like a Debo Samuel, like Christian McCaffrey, and like last week we saw and the week before, Brandon Ayuk coming nicely into his own as really I feel I would argue Ayuk is the best wide receiver pure that the Niners have. Debo's the best weapon out of the two.
Yeah. Okay.
But as far as a pure wideout is concerned, like Ayuk's really coming nicely into it. He's really run those deep in routes well. He's getting his hands up. He's ready for the high ball that Jimmy tends to throw. If Jimmy's gonna miss, he usually throws that ball high. Um, yeah, doing a great job out there. I like how Ayuk and him are gelling. I think that was something we also that was kind of talked about in the offseason is with Trey Lance. It was going to be the Trey Lance and Ayuk combination, and we're going to see more of that. Um, no, that's Ayuk just anyways. It didn't matter who was quarterback there. I think he's done a great job, and him and Jimmy seem to really have a great thing going right now. So very
Yeah, I
happy
agree.
to
I
see
I
in that
guess.
regard. Just they need to start converting those to points.
Yeah.
Less field goals. I like Wishnowski, but we can only pin him at the 5 so many times. Let's start actually converting these for some points. It's great to see us pin the back, and they do that a lot. And so it feels like it's dominant, but yeah, let's actually convert some of these to some touchdowns
Yeah.
every now and then.
It's
It would really
it's it's
really
gonna
help.
cost you games you can't drop.
Right.
Right. It's just it's too frequent with them, and it was the same thing last year, right? And that's what ended up with them their playoff run maybe being a little bit more difficult than it needed to be, right? Is you just you drop games against teams that you really shouldn't be dropping games against. Now you're gonna have to play on the road in the playoffs, and that's always harder than playing at home in the playoffs. And just start sealing out those games, get a few more points. They don't need to be a team that scores 35, 40 points a game. You get over that 27-point threshold, you're going to win more often than not with that defense. So, just clean it up a little bit. Don't force your defense to be absolutely perfect. Let them be the good defense they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, yeah, pleased about the play. Not obviously by the closeness of this
Yeah.
game, but this was a pretty dominant. This is as dominant of a 6 point win as you'd see. It kind of unfortunately fucks it because of the cover. This is a 7.5 point.
Seven and a
We
half.
need some more points here. But let's go on to the last game, the Monday night game, an absolute stunner and knocking off the last undefeated team in the NFL are the Washington Commanders, who went into Philly and took down the Eagles. They move up to 500, I believe, on the year, and yeah, at 5-5. Eagles fall to 8-1 on that 32-21 game. Um, hey, Taylor Heineke, baby, let's go. he
You
he
know,
has the factor.
the
No,
numbers don't
They
pop out.
the numbers lie this time. We say that the
Yeah.
numbers don't lie. The numbers lie this time. Heineke got that factor, baby.
He finds ways that as the game gets more and more important, he finds ways to get better, right? Like if you look at Heineke's first half stats, they are horrendous. They're absolutely dreadful. They're like making Davis Mills look like prime Tom Brady bad.
Yeah.
And then the Commanders are still there. And now that dog comes out. Now Heineke's like, I'm a win now, thanks.
I mean,
And it's a whole new level of Taylor Heineke.
it's a it can't be ignored at this point. Like I just
There was
sometimes you just really like playing for it's the Jimmy G factor has been for years. The offensive numbers aren't there potentially as far as like blowing you out of the water, yards, touchdowns, that sort of thing, but it's there. And hell, if you're Scary Terry, it seems like you're loving having Taylor Heineke back. You're getting the ball again. You're getting the ball again. You're getting a lot of targets. Yeah, yeah, it's a factor.
there was a report earlier this week that the Commanders were considering going back to Carson Wentz over Taylor Heineke when he's healthy. I swear to that, more than anything, over anything Josh McDaniels has done,
Yeah.
if you put in Carson Wentz again ahead of Taylor Heineke after what he's done, fired. I love you, Riverboat Ron, but you're gone.
Riverboat Ron, yeah. That's not the gamble you take, Ron. You stick with a good thing as long as it's still a good thing. There's nothing saying that, it's not like this team's rocking the world or anything like that. So this
No.
team could very easily take losses. And yeah, at that point it's considered. But right now, hell no. Hell no. You don't mess with a good thing right now. You keep them in.
But let's be completely honest. What did we think the Commanders were coming into this year?
Right.
Right?
It wasn't going to be good.
If you had told me 5-5 after 10 games, I'd have said it's a pretty good year for the Commanders, to be honest with you. I didn't think they'd be there.
No.
I think you looked at their division, everybody knew, especially if you told me that the Giants are going to be a good team. Right? Because everybody knew the Eagles were going to be good.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of knew the Cowboys are a good team. We know what they have.
Yeah, should be anyways. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you tell me at the start of the season the Giants are going to be 7-2 and the Commies are going to be 5-5,
It's still going to be 5-5, yeah. Yeah.
I would be like, that's really good because they have one really great wide receiver weapon in Terry McLaurin. Curtis Samuel's hit and miss at best, right? And then what? Benjamin St-Juste? Like, what are we talking about beyond there, right? Their running back situation, I like Gibson and Robinson, but neither one of them would be what you'd call elite,
No,
right?
of course not. No.
I don't think either one of them cracks the well, not neither one of them cracks the top 10. You make a list of the top 15 running backs in the NFL, they might even struggle to crack that, right? Gibson maybe because of what he's done over the past few seasons as kind of like a, you know, he's there, but like the talent wise, they're not there, but they find ways. They find ways. And defense is pretty damn stout too. It started out a little bit rough, but everybody like you can see the names there, right? And know that like okay, defensively you should be able to figure this out, right? You got Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, you know, there's guys on that defense that you figure that defense should be able to figure it out. I mentioned Benjamin St-Juste earlier. Um, it's one of those things where they are playing above the sum of their parts right now.
Yeah. I'm interested with this team going forward, honestly, because of well, both teams actually, and for different reasons. For Washington, it's yeah, exactly. You're a 500 team in the toughest division in your conference. Um, you're right there on the bubble as far as making the playoffs are concerned. Uh, yeah, you gotta feel pretty good about where you're at right now, and you are getting a guy like Chase Young back. Um,
Huge.
yeah, potentially, yeah, exactly. If he's able to come in and contribute and be one of those guys again right off the bat, absolutely. Um, Heineke, he's probably gonna have to be a little bit more efficient, that sort of thing, than
Yeah.
he was in this last game, but got it done. On the other side, though, I mean, right now the Eagles have been they've really been able to like kind of stick by their identity for the most part. They weren't able to get the running game really started in this game. Gainwell and Scott only having one rush apiece is actually really surprising. They usually try to get those guys involved. Godere, he ends up going down and now he's on the IR, I believe. Um, so that's a nice little weapon you had. Devonta Smith has been nice for you, that sort of thing, and AJ Brown obviously. You're hurt though. You've been hurt at on your defensive line. You brought in Robert Quinn, but he hasn't apparently been seeing too much playing time. You have now just brought in Sue, right? Um,
Yeah, Ndamukong too.
and while that's a name that we recognize, I'm not too sure if that bodes too well right now for your current situation. If you're bringing in Sue and I don't know how much they expect him to play and that sort of thing and how he gets rotated in. That'll be interesting, but and I don't think it's like tearing apart the seams by any means for the Eagles, but uh, at home, you should have wrapped up this game. This should have been a win for you, and the Commanders being able to win the way they did, yeah, very nice. And one other thing, don't forget one of the best offensive weapons the Commanders have, my boy Joey Sly. I love me some Joey Sly. I've been a fan for a few years now, and just kind of seeing where he's bounced around quite a bit as far as where he's kicked. Hit some bombs in this game. 58 as his long one, but he had another long 50-yarder later in that game as well, I believe. So, yeah, good shit from Joey Sly. I love to see it.
I'm gonna throw this out there. It worked last time I threw it out there, and I'll do it again.
Okay.
A guy who I kind of liked coming into the draft last year as a late round sleeper, who's gonna see some minutes now. Grant Calcaterra from Southern Methodist University. Fascinating story of his, by the way.
Hmm.
You'll grant me a second here. Actually retired from football in 2020 because of concussion issues. Ends up dropping out of Oklahoma, re-enrolls in SMU later that year. Gets 500 yards in his last year at SMU as a tight end. In a SMU team, by the way, very much a team that will throw the ball to everybody at all times. This is a team where if you get 500 yards, you're probably the leading receiver. Um, Now that Goddard's down,
Hmm.
I don't think Jack Stoll can step in and be that guy. Even at Nebraska, he was more of a blocking tight end. Cal Catterer could be a guy who could really step in as a receiving tight end. Might be somebody worth watching
Hmm.
because I think they really like that tight end spot the way they use Goddard, and I think you could use Cal Catterer in a similar way.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, you know, it's been an interesting year. Tight ends have really only, I would say, maybe two guys, really, as far as tight ends that have really consistently been able to contribute on the offensive side of the ball. I suppose three if you count Mark Andrews, but he got injured. But then it's been Kelsey and T.J. Hawkinson. I would say are the only guys you can really count on. I think for
Goddard,
and Goddard. But then
yeah.
exactly that was kind of the point. That's the only other guy I would say, and yeah, it's gonna hurt for him. It's been not a luxury offensive position as it has been in some past years. There's been some tight ends that have gone off. outside of just Kelsey. But I think yeah, Goddard was one of those guys, and if they get somebody to kind of replicate a little bit of that, it's like what you hope out of even though you know much more of a garbage team situation. It's what I hope for a guy like Foster Moreau who's able to
Yeah,
take snaps off of Darren Waller right now. Decent enough guy. He could kind of fill that gap a little bit for you. He's not going to be nearly as talented, obviously, who he's replacing, but yeah, hopefully still get some looks in that offense. That
really
has
quickly, since you brought it up.
yeah.
Kelsey's number one, Goddard's two, Hawkinson's three, Mark Andrews is four, as far as yards for a tight end.
Okay.
Who's fifth?
Um. Ooh. Uh. I almost want to say like Irv Smith or something like that, but I'm not too sure. No, Irv Smith's probably way down there.
It is. And this shocked the hell out of me because I thought he was having an awful year. It is David Njoku
Oh
in
wow.
Cleveland.
Yeah. Would
418
not
yards for him this year.
would not have had that. That's for sure.
Yeah. So Ertz was after that. That would have been my guess. And then Fryermuth, who would have also been somebody that I would have never thrown out in Njoku. But yeah, so after Njoku, you got Ertz and Fryermuth. That's all the tight ends over 400 yards so far this year.
Damn.
It is, yeah, it's kind of a position where, and by the way, Hawkinson 5'10", Goddard 5'45", and Kelsey 7'40" are the only ones above 500.
Yeah.
It's been kind of a position where you haven't been able to get a ton out of it.
Not of that. But yeah, anything more on that Commanders Eagles game?
Nope.
All right. Well, in case you're curious, on our picks on that last week, very spicy one. I was on fire through the early parts of the games. The early games kind of fell off a little bit later. End up going 9-4 last week. Craig ends up going 8-5 last week. So now they'll put me at a total of 70, 52, and 5 on the year. Looking good, baby. Not too bad, though. Not too shabby on the other side. 64, 58, and 5
Yeah.
for Craig. So still on the positive side there by a handful of games. And let's touch upon last night's game a little bit. We didn't actually touch upon that. Usually we'll lead off with that. I kind of skipped by that by mistake. But anything about that Titans Packers game that stood out to you outside of the Packers kind of falling back off again and the Titans let's just keep fucking running with Derrick Henry over
Yeah.
and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, why not? It works.
Yeah.
You know what also works? Running over and over again with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Shame the Packers don't seem to know that.
Not really.
We talked about it with the Dallas game. They figured Rodgers threw the ball 20 times, looked fucking brilliant. Jones and Dillon were running the ball on everybody. This game, 12-6.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. And it really starts to even like hurt more on that point because if you were getting something or you're getting some more consistency out of Rodgers and throwing, nobody would bat an eye about Rodgers
no.
throwing the ball 40 times. He's had 20 throw. I think he had a 20 throw game in that last game we had just covered.
Yeah.
So it's like
14. He was 14 of 20 for like 250 and 3 touchdowns. He looked fantastic.
yeah, and it was enough. And then you had Jones and Dillon. I would say you wouldn't necessarily be going crazy by having Rodgers throw a lot in a particular game if this was past seasons. But now, I mean, he was missing some balls. Like clearly, he was very upset at his receivers all the time. And yeah, there were some drops by his receivers. They're not doing him great favors either. But yeah, definitely not the same quarterback we've had these past couple of years that is putting up MVP performances. I mean, not quite, I suppose, mathematically written off yet, but I mean, shit,
There's no
I
way.
don't see it from this Packers team.
I'll throw it out there. The Packers aren't making the playoffs. Like playoffs?
Yeah,
We're talking about
they're
playoffs? I
trying to
just
win a
want to see
game.
him win a
Yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah.
They're
Well,
they're bad. I said it. I think there's a very realistic chance the Packers end up being the worst team in the NFC in the NFC North.
right. Yeah.
I think that's much more likely than playoffs. Um, yeah. Titans. Tannehill looked like really good. Again, don't get used to that because I think we've seen more and more that it's not what you get out of Tannehill more often than not. Like, but he looked really good in this one. Derrick Henry did Derrick Henry things.
Enough,
Uh,
anyways. I mean, the yardage obviously is it's not going to blow you away. It seemed like it was pretty consistent going though. Like,
yeah, I'd say even in games like we've seen Derrick Henry have games like this before where he goes like 25 plus for maybe 90 yards and you go, "Oh, that's a bad game." But it's what he does to a defense that makes games like that worth it, right? Because you look at the 3.1 average and it's not gonna blow your mind, but that defense at the end of that game was fucking ragged,
yeah, and
right?
and you even look at early on when he gets that little
Yeah.
jump touchdown pass. That's
Yep.
all because they're selling out for that
Yep.
run. They have to. It's
Yep.
Derrick Henry running up the middle on you.
Yeah. Like he breaks down defenses in a way that I've seen few guys do. Where even when it's like, oh, 28 for 87, it's not a good game statistically, but he did exactly what he needed to do against that defense, which was just butcher them. Like then you got Treylon Burks running streaks on you, and your guys are all too beat to really keep up with them, right? Like it's just one of those things where you have to tackle him. Every time he touches the ball, you have to tackle him. And it's going to take a couple guys to do that because he's stronger than your guys. And it's just one of those things where it keeps building and building and building. It's also what keeps Tannehill upright,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, yeah. What are you gonna? You're gonna really seek him out on play actions too, and if you're able to
Yeah,
utilize that, and yeah,
yeah.
Tannehill did a great job
And
in this game.
every defense in the league is going to say if Tannehill's going to throw 22 passes for 333 yards and two touchdowns, you're just going to have to throw your hands up in the air on that one and say, hey, he did the thing.
Yeah.
Next week, every team's going to sell out to let Tannehill try to do that again.
Right.
Right? It's
Uh,
just the threat that you have with Derrick Henry.
yeah. But let's keep it going. We'll move in off of the games have already been played, and let's get into the games to come up this weekend. Um, we start off right off the bat. We are going to your boys, the Atlanta Falcons. Gonna be playing host to the Chicago Bears. Atlanta getting -3 here at home. 4-6 Falcons, 3-7 Bears. What you thinking coming into this one?
I mean, what am I thinking or what am I hoping?
Both.
Ah, of course Chicago should be the favorites in this one, right? Like
I mean, they're not. They're actually 3-point unders.
they're 3 point dogs. I don't get that.
Yeah.
Um,
Home team with a better record. Yeah, that being factored in, I suppose.
I I guess I don't
Bears
know.
did just lose to the Lions. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I got for you. Um, yeah, obviously Falcons coming off of a an ugly loss on previous Thursday night against Carolina. Um,
yep.
Chargers right before that. They did beat those Panthers a few weeks ago, end of October there. But yeah, it's a little up and down, just a bit for the Falcons. Now sitting at 4-6. They had that division lead for just a bit of time there, and yeah, now yeah what exactly is going to be the
It's
end goal for this team right now. I mean, they have every chance to still win this division, obviously.
and it's Justin Fields coming back to his hometown too. He's from Atlanta. Oh, this is all.
Hmm.
Every fiber of my being is saying, just say the Bears, you fucking idiot. But you know what? We've built our reputation on stupid homer picks that makes no sense. Mainly me. Your homer picks usually make sense. The Niners are usually the better team. I am homer picking the Falcons in the face of everything.
Yeah, I hear. Let me make you feel a little bit better about that. Suppose I'm not homer picking the Falcons. I'm just picking the Falcons on this one.
Let's go,
The,
Tab.
the,
Join me in misery.
this is the thing. This is the thing. Justin Fields and this team, like starting to gel on that end, is fantastic. That's great. Like we said, better prospects going forward, I think, for this team than a
Yeah,
team perhaps like the Packers that are going to be stuck in QB hell perhaps in the next couple of years.
yeah.
Um, they don't got shit else. This is
Nope,
still a bad Bears team,
that is true.
no matter which way you shake it. They just lost to the Detroit Lions.
That is
And
also
we
true.
love the Detroit Lions, but they are dog shit this year as well. Yeah, I just like Atlanta outright. I don't think Mariota is going to play nearly as bad. He's looked fucking awful in a couple of those games as far as him passing the ball is concerned. They need to get him run the ball effectively again, utilizing that option with it. Cordero, being back, another week, that'll be fantastic for him. Get the rookie involved like you have been able to at times. Uh, yeah, I have no reason to think that Atlanta won't be able to move the ball pretty effectively against Chicago. A good defense at points, but also could be a terrible defense that still gives up 31 points to Detroit. So, yeah, I like Atlanta just outright.
Atlanta will have AJ Terrell back too, it sounds like,
Oh, wow.
which
Okay.
is
Big.
absolutely
Big.
massive.
Definitely.
Right? He has been practicing this week. Um, he's still listed as questionable, but I can't imagine he practices all week and doesn't play. Um, I like that is huge because this defense lives and dies on AJ Terrell. Right? We've talked about how important Sauce Gardner is to the Jets defense. AJ Terrell is more important to the Falcons defense because the Falcons defense doesn't have talent around him the way the Jets defense does.
Hmm.
Um, so getting AJ Terrell back would be absolutely on like you cannot overstate how important that would be for the Falcons.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great factor. I didn't realize that. Um, yeah, need those healthy corners, and in this game, like you already know that the Bears are going to want to run it. They're going to want to get Fields out into space. You know, having a reliable corner to just kind of like take away the other options
Yeah.
safely for you, or be able to, I don't know how he doesn't necessarily run coverage that sort of thing, but hey, just having a better player out there is it's never a bad thing. So we'll see for Atlanta. I have good hope for him, and yeah, Chicago. There's a reason this team's only won 3 games.
They're moving in the right direction, but there
Yeah.
is still a lot of work to be done. There's no doubt
Yes.
about that.
Yes. Um, let's keep it moving. And this could have been such a fun game to try to figure out what the hell is going to happen. Because we all were seeing, I don't know if you were paying attention, as far as the potential snowfall that Buffalo was going to have as they were going to
Yeah.
be hosting the Browns. And we were talking about like 6 feet of snow. And I mean, obviously, it's not going to be 6 feet out there on the field, but like, yeah, just an
Yeah.
absolute shit show. Complete blizzard coming in. This game has been then moved to Detroit now. This is going to be played in a dome. Um, so the
Maybe play in the dome. The latest about this is
oh
that the the Bills are still stuck in Buffalo.
oh
So there is a
Oh wow.
non-zero chance this game just doesn't happen.
Well, they would push it to probably another
They
Monday
would,
game.
yeah, they would put like they can't even push it later in the week because the Bills already play on Thursday.
Oh yeah, that's
They play
tough.
Detroit on Thursday in Detroit. So they can't even push this game to a Tuesday, like a Monday, Tuesday kind of thing. The week would be so they would have to find a way to completely reschedule this game.
And yeah, I don't think you could do that. Well, let's see. Yeah, no, both
They could probably find a way to
no.
fit it in
I
some
mean,
way.
both these teams had their bye weeks already, so that's already taken out of the equation. You couldn't like line their
Yeah.
bye weeks and like take that up, and they'd fill in their weeks and that sort of thing. You couldn't shift that around to make that work. Damn.
Because
But
yeah, they couldn't practice at all because of the amount of snow. There's rumors that flights are still stuck in Buffalo. Like as of right now, they haven't left Buffalo yet. So it's a very interesting prospect of this game might not even happen.
yeah, wow. Well, I mean, I guess we still have to try to guess at
Yeah.
it. Yeah, no need to really, I'd say, dive too much. I guess into a bunch of hypotheticals, that sort of thing. Who knows what we'll end up having at the end of this? But if this is played at Ford Field, um, Buffalo getting a -7.5 line, as opposed to as a, I would have thought it would have been a really fun line to have to try to bet against if this was the Snowden game. Because honestly, you're talking about uh, a Cleveland team that runs the ball
I was
better.
gonna say if it was a snow game, I would have picked Cleveland outright because I think Nick Chubb wins you that game.
It definitely gets you. It gets it way more in the realm of
Yeah,
possibility. That's for damn
yeah.
sure. So
I mean, we saw it last year in the Buffalo snow game, right, where they lost to Ramondre Stevenson,
yeah,
right? And Nick Chubb is way better than Ramondre Stevenson. And I
yeah.
like Ramondre Stevenson. Um, in Ford Field in the dome, this is all Bills.
Yeah, I gotta go Buffalo myself. Yeah, you figured that they'll have the offense fully clicking, coming off of a kind of a heartbreaker loss, but yeah, I think just that much of a better team than what the Browns are going to be able to offer up. Just can't keep up if you're talking about them, and yeah, not playing in a snow-covered field, they'll be able to put up the points to make that -7.5 pretty feasible in my eyes. So
Yeah.
I like the Bills.
Now, it is worth noting they have shown a bit of a weakness against the run recently. If they can get Nick Chubb going and really exploit that weakness, they can maybe keep this close, but even still, I don't think they'll be able to put up enough points.
Yeah. Um, yeah, got my feeling right there. Exactly. It's good. It's going to be a little bit more of a sprint, a little bit
Yeah.
more of a race on these two, and yeah, Buffalo just has a little too much in there for that. Let's keep moving into the next game. This one, yeah, a couple weeks ago, man, this is looking like a wash. I'm pretty intrigued by this one now. Philadelphia Eagles coming off their first loss of the season, going into Indy after the coaching switch. Of Colts going to be hosting 4-5-1 on the year. Eagles 8-1 themselves, and Indy getting +6.5 here at home. I originally wrote this down just a couple hours ago, and it was actually a 7 point, um, 7 point line there, but now +6.5. I'm seeing.
Good, betters keep dropping that line. Makes it easier for me to vote to pick the Eagles. Not that I wasn't gonna pick them anyways.
Yeah.
It's all Eagles. All Eagles.
Um.
Everything that the Colts did last week can be attributed to the fact that they played the Raiders. That's the free space on the bingo card. It doesn't count. The Colts on the year as a whole have been god awful for the most part. I got no reason to believe that they're going to be anything different against this Eagles team.
Yeah, it's the line at 7 was interesting. 6.5 here. You don't get that week 1 or that first week like rally behind the coach factor that you could potentially argue you got with Saturday. They did play the Raiders though. Make a great point. Eagles just lost to the Commanders. So one coming off like an ugly win, one coming off an ugly loss, I guess you could put it. Crazy enough. Yeah. I think I'm going to go with it. And reason B is if they're able to keep it going with Jonathan Taylor somehow, they, they got a chance here. 6.5. I really wish this is still the 7 spread, but I still like it at 6.5. I'll go with Indy on this one. I'll go with Indy. Just a little bit of a gut feeling on this one.
Oh, you got bit by the free space.
I don't know. I mean, like Philly has been damn good. Obviously, it just neither team played like anything that would blow your
No,
minds last week. So I don't know. I feel like big point, like kind of biggish point spread. A home game for Indy here. Um, you know, still in that fucking AFC South, that outside of the Titans. You know, what else is there really? You got something to take advantage of here. Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of a gut feeling. I'll take the Colts on this one.
so I will throw it out there. Ndamukong Suh got the headlines for the signings.
Right.
Linval Joseph is the difference maker signing they brought in there.
Hmm.
I think Linval Joseph gets in there immediately and improves this run defense. And it's not like Jonathan Taylor's been great this year. He's had 2 good games. One of them was week 1. The other one was last week against the Raiders. I can't rely on him to keep that production.
Yeah, I think it's yeah. I mean, I'm interested to see how Philly responds on this one because it's kind of a it's you're riding the high. You're clearly
Yep.
the best team in the league. You take a bad loss against a guy who came on as the backup quarterback. Uh, Within your division, loss like, and I would say on paper, as far as like talent is concerned, I mean the line out. You ignore the offensive line of the Colts that has played like absolute dog shit for whatever for reasons. Um, on paper, I mean, still a you're putting some talent out there if you're the Colts. So you hope that they can step up and play more into that. They have played down. They've underperformed as much as any team I've seen in recent years. The last couple of years for this Colts team, they have just not been as good as they should have been. And um, I don't think Jeff Saturday is specifically what's going to make that happen, but it seems like the folks around him have enough experience in that building to where they might be able to get it done for a bit. And what I like about it also, I think, for the Colts is it's like they just made the move as far as the coaching change. So there's not a predictability factor, I think, yet with the Colts in that regard. I think with like a guy gets thrust into a situation like this, you keep it simple. You go with what works, and you probably don't have the ability to do much changing. So once you get figured out, it's gonna be tough. Um, we'll see. We'll see if the Colts are figured out, 2 weeks in, or if they still got enough by. Yeah, let's run Jonathan Taylor. Let's put Matt Ryan back in there because we're still going to believe in our highly paid quarterback, unlike Wentz, and yeah, see what we can do. Uh, let's go over though to This one was, I mean, I suppose we're talking about a quarterback that also is, they're kind of hanging on to. If you're talking about Mac Jones versus Zappy, but the New York Jets going into New England to play against the Pats. Pats getting -3.5 here at home, hosting at 5-4. Jets coming in at 6-3. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
Why are the Patriots favorites?
Great question.
The Jets?
Disrespect. The absolute disrespect of the Jets, basically.
Jets.
Yes. I'm
This
with
is
you.
a pretty easy one for me. Um, I I said it. The Patriots are a freaking tough team, and they're a tough nut to crack. But they're not a good team. The Jets are, especially that defense. Like Jets.
Yeah.
This is a pretty easy one for me.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose no surprise as I've been behind the New York teams all year. But yeah, exactly. Why are they uh the underdog in this? Team with a better record. Who just generally like in and out week by week looked a lot more consistent, even if it's not always winning games. And you're talking about just like another week that you have a James Robinson getting under this offense a little bit better. Yeah, I dig it. Yeah, I love that we're getting points with the Jets here. Easy pick for me as well.
Like I know there's a lot of people going off of that win the Patriots had a few weeks ago. Zach Wilson threw like 4 picks in that game or something like that. Yeah, if he
Yeah,
does that again, they lose. But I'll bet on this Jets defense to cause more havoc than Zach Wilson to throw 4 picks again.
yeah, think so. Um, Keep moving on to the next one. We got the Los Angeles Rams going down, taking on the New Orleans Saints. Saints getting -3 here at home. Uh, Rams coming in 3-6. Saints hosting at 3-7. I'm taking a look at this. This is a Rams team that I already didn't like. We talked about their offensive line. They just lost Cooper Kupp, like really their only like weapon. They don't have running backs they like to run the ball with.
Um,
I'm somehow taking the not great just loss to the Steelers in a not close game. I'm taking the Saints because how could I take the Rams here?
uh,
Yeah,
see,
that's it.
it,
How could I take the Rams here?
and I'm taking the Rams because how could I
No
take the Saints
way.
here? I
They just lost Cup though. Like, what is this team gonna do? Higby?
get the ball to Tyler Higbee a lot.
But like he's had
Not
really
have Andy
bad
Dalton
games.
at quarterback.
True.
That's a huge thing. They're
That's a
they're just
factor.
they're part of their game plan is going to be not having Andy Dalton at quarterback.
Yeah.
Big advantage.
Stafford is coming back this game. Yeah, it's
Stafford is back.
definitely
Yes,
not going to be Wilford. Okay, but yeah, yeah, that's it. You,
I'm grasping at straws for this one.
it's a
I
tough.
will pick the team that doesn't have Andy Dalton.
Yeah, I mean both teams on losing streaks. Rams having
It's
just lost to
bad.
Arizona, Tampa
It's
Bay.
bad.
Saints just lost to Pittsburgh, Baltimore. They had the nice 24-0 win against the Raiders though, so they were able to stomp a bad team like that.
There's free space on the bingo card.
But yeah, I mean they just had that terrible like 20-10, but they weren't even close to 10 points. Like that's a mirage. That is not real. They were nowhere even
Yeah,
close in that game. So
yeah.
yeah,
I,
got to pick
I
somebody. So I guess
yeah.
we're separate on this one. Oddly enough,
We are split because our reasons for picking the other
just
team
who,
are
how.
well, they're probably not as bad, maybe. I
All
don't
right,
think either one of us are particularly confident in this bet.
yeah.
I know I certainly am not.
All right. Let's go this next one. And we brought up the egregious line earlier of the Jets
Yeah,
actually getting plus points on the road.
yeah.
This one might be worse in my book. Because the Detroit Lions are going into New York to face off against the Giants, and the Giants are only getting -3 here at home. 7-2 on the year against the 3-6 Detroit Lions that just barely beat the Bears. Um, what do you got for this one? Because it looks like you got a point on this one that might counter what I'm thinking.
I would say this is not as egregious.
Not as egregious.
Sim
Okay, fair
simply
enough.
because the Giants don't really blow out teams. Their games tend to be close. They win them and they look like the better team when they win, but they don't beat teams by 15, 20 points, right?
Sure.
That being said, I'm obviously taking the Giants. Of course they're going to win this game by more than three.
Yeah.
Um, but I at least understand the logic of like, they don't really blow teams out. The Lions have looked scrappy the last few weeks. They might keep this close. Don't want to set that line too high. That to me is far less egregious than Jets underdogs to the Patriots.
Yeah, I suppose. And you do look at it, and the Lions in their last three wins against Chicago and Green Bay, and a loss against Miami that was
Tight loss
actually
against Miami.
close. Um, so yeah, not a bad stretch of games right there.
Yeah.
New York having that bad Seattle game in their last three, but otherwise getting their wins, getting them handled. But yeah, I they win the games close, but yeah, against the Lions, like I'm just very surprised by 3 points. But yeah, I got the Giants on this one for sure.
Yeah, no, like they win them close, but like they'll beat the Lions by 5 or 6.
Which of it?
The Lions are one of those teams that the Giants love playing, right? You will make mistakes. We will capitalize.
Let's keep it moving into another. This is another very much losing team, very bad team versus one of the better teams in the league. But this one is the crazy spread right here that you'd expect a little bit more. Carolina Panthers going into Baltimore to face off against the Ravens. Ravens sitting at 6-3, Panthers at 3-7. Baltimore getting -13 here at home. I know it is the Panthers. -13 is quite the spread. And for a Baltimore offense that they'll put up decent points, 20 something is what you're looking at from this team. I don't really believe the Panthers will put up anything close to 20, but like the the number, it's just too big of a number for
Yeah.
me. I have to take the Panthers just based on the spread here. Yeah, they keep it within 13 points. I gotta feel that way. It's
This to me feels a lot like the Jaguars Chiefs game from last week, where the Ravens will win it and will win it comfortably, but because of that, they'll never have to get out of second gear, right? They'll never have to kick it up to that drive where they put up 40 points, right? They'll score 27, 28. It might, like, late score puts this thing to within one score and makes it look a little bit closer than it was. Of course, Deontay Foreman's been awesome recently too. I imagine he keeps going. I gotta go with the Panthers to cover. They're not gonna win or really even be competitive, but they'll cover 13.
what you gotta feel right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll keep it moving on to the next one here. The Washington Commanders going down to Houston, face off against the Texans. Texans getting just the +3 here at home. Washington coming off that win, as we brought up earlier, against that formerly undefeated Eagles team. Very surprised by this spread. Only 3 points for the Commanders. I'm a believer of Taylor Heineke and the Commanders. I'm hammering Washington on this one, no doubt.
Easy. This one's easy for me as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're sticking with Heineke. He knows how to win games. Dude's just got that in him.
At 3 points is perfect. This could easily just be a game
Yeah,
they win by 4 something, maybe a tutty.
yeah.
But like, I don't see any reason to believe that Houston's uh, gonna pick up their second win of the season here. Like I just don't see it. And that's essentially what you're looking for. So yeah, Washington for sure on that one. Um, the juggernauts of the AFC West coming up here. We know them. We
The
love them.
the coach off, baby.
We got the hack off. Now we got the McDaniel's Hackett Invitational. The Las Vegas Raiders going into Denver to face off against the Broncos. Broncos getting or -2.5 here at home. Both teams sitting at some pretty bad records. 3-6 for the Broncos. 2-7 for the Raiders. This was the toughest game for me to pick, if I'm being honest.
Oh,
But it was tough at first.
yeah.
Because just maybe a little too much haterism, perhaps, because I'm seeing Russell Wilson and all his shenanigans. It just doesn't work for the Broncos. And uh, just maybe stuck in that mode a little too much. This Raiders team is absolutely fucking awful. And this Broncos defense, I really do give them a credit. They keep this team in games they have no business being in. Um, so I gotta feel like they'll be able to win this game by 3 points or more. So I got the Broncos on this one for sure.
I have the Broncos winning after the Raiders try a 70-yard field goal. It comes up short, and the Broncos return it for a touchdown to win by 7.
Wow.
That expect mindless coaching that makes no fucking sense. Uh, Nothing will look like football in any way. The Broncos win after Josh McDaniels finds a way to fumble the ball harder than he has in previous weeks. Because that's what he does. It's impressive, really. It's a skill at this point.
Dig it. Yeah, and yeah, I exactly kind of same thing. Like I feel like neither team's gonna be looking that great in this win.
It's gonna be awful. Don't watch it.
They'll be backing into this win, but I gotta feel like there's just a little bit more there for the Broncos, especially because they actually you could point to that defense and that's a good defense, so they got something
Well,
there.
that's just it. I can at least point to an aspect of the Broncos game and go, they are good. I
Yes,
can't do that with the Raiders.
can't do it. Can't do it. Can't have it. Let's keep it moving. Another spicy line. Those folks in Vegas know something we don't because this one was another one. Very surprising based on who's at home, too. Dallas Cowboys going into Minnesota to face off against the Vikings. Vikings still an 8-1 team. Cowboys coming in at 6-3. Minnesota getting +1.5 here at home. Very surprising to me. Just based on how they played, they just won that absolute thriller against Buffalo. Quite a comeback win on that. Dallas's last game was against Green Bay after a bye week, and they lost that game somehow. So a little surprised on this line myself. What you think?
First, I thought, oh, the line makers, they're smart. This is a prime time game. It's not even a prime time game.
No.
It's afternoon start.
Yeah, it's a day game.
Um,
Day into the night, but it's not prime time. Not Sunday night
yeah,
football.
no, we're not getting prime time Kirk Cousins. Um,
It's not 10 a.m. Kirk Cousins. Or 1 Eastern Kirk Cousins. That's the goal. You're getting that 10
1
a.m.
o'clock Kirk
Pacific.
Cousins
Oh yeah,
is like the greatest quarterback of all time.
yeah. Our man wakes up in beast mode. But no, that's just it. It's like, hey, dude, he's just really a morning guy.
He's a morning guy.
Nothing
He's
wrong with that.
all
Kirk
these
Rise.
all these flim flam and night games and stuff like that. We need to be in bed by 7:30.
Kirk
These things are going
Cousins.
on way too
Yeah,
late.
yeah. Kirk Cousins is already wrapping up with a snuggie and a good book at that point. No, Kirk Cousins. He wakes up. He's ready. He's rise and grind, baby. He's ready for it.
Yeah.
You know. This is.
He's one of those
Uh,
dudes that's doing 4 a.m.
so
workouts,
so
man.
so these are a little tougher for Kirk. We're talking about
Yeah.
1 in the afternoon. That's kind of those that falling sun hour, right? He might get a little, you know, maybe he gets a little tired around halftime. Maybe that halftime he takes a little nap, a little afternoon nap for Kirk Cousins. I think he'll be good to go. I like
Grab yourself a
Minnesota.
monster on the way up.
Everything, all the shit talk being said, I like Minnesota in this. I don't
Oh,
see
yeah.
any reason why they're necessarily the underdog, even though it's only a point and a half. But Minnesota hasn't shown me anything to really hate. I mean, they could have easily lost that game last week. They were behind by a bit against Buffalo, but that's the Buffalo Bills we're talking
The
about. One of the
Buffalo
best.
Bills.
Not too surprising. Dallas, great team of themselves. Reason why they're even that close or given an advantage. But yeah, that's a not a great loss they took against Green Bay right there, and they still have some things to figure out as far as their offense goes.
Who's Dallas's best win this year? The
Well,
Giants?
yeah, Cincy, Giants.
Yeah, maybe the bank. Like they haven't really
Yeah,
beaten a particularly great team or even a very good team for that matter. The only other one they played was the Eagles and they lost that game.
still got them coming up. Yeah.
Um I don't know. I don't know why the line is where it is here. The other thing that scares me in this game is sounds like Ezekiel Elliott will probably be back. And I mean, we know Mike McCarthy loves giving Ezekiel Elliott the ball for no fucking reason. So he's going to get like 20 touches. And yeah, I got to go with the Vikings here. They're one of like three teams in this league that I truly believe are actually a good team. If they lose, I have nothing.
Wacky things in the NFL. They do happen from time to time, but yeah, just don't see it here
Yeah.
going forward. Um, let's keep it going into the next one. We got the Cincinnati Bengals coming off that bye, going against the Steelers, who just came off that win against the Saints. Um, Cincinnati's still going to be without Jamar Chase, I believe, right now. Could still be out with that hip.
Yes.
Um, but otherwise, I mean, we're getting Pittsburgh, +4 at home here.
Yep.
Cincy, it has not been a fantastic season. It has not been, uh, you know, injury wise, they've been seeing it. They're not playing quite to that level they have been previously. But, I mean, 4 points, it's a bit, but it's not enough. This is a definitely more talented Cincinnati team. So, definitely got to go with them on this pick.
I mean, I do want to take a second to talk about how fucking impressive it is that Minka Fitzpatrick's going to be playing in this game. He had an appendectomy on Saturday.
Wow.
Dude
Pretty crazy.
had his appendix removed the day before the Saints game last week and is like, yeah, I'll be playing. I'm fine. What, major abdominal surgery? Nah, nah, nah. Good. Let's go. Um, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Maybe that galvanizes the team. I still gonna pick the Bengals. They've won 3 of their last 4. I know they're missing Jamar Chase. That's gonna hurt, but they have more than enough to beat this Steelers team.
Only thing I'll say in closing here that kind of goes counter to it, makes it a little interesting. I still have the Bengals on it though. Pittsburgh Steelers, 8-1 in their last 9, off of wins against the Bengals. So following a win, they played the Bengals pretty well off that win, but that's taking some Steelers teams from a few years back, a little different nowadays. I feel, um, yeah, not. I don't give Steelers much of a chance in that one
Um,
myself.
if we want numbers from this year, Bengals are 6-1 against the spread in their last seven.
Whew, not too shabby. Uh, let's keep it going. We're going into Sunday Night Football. We got the Kansas City Chiefs going to be going into LA to face off against the Chargers. AFC West matchup here. Kansas City sitting at 7-2. Chargers at 5-4. Chargers going to get +5 here at home. Um, Coming off of a tough loss are the Chargers against the Niners. Chiefs with that pretty dominant win over the Jags. Uh, right now, it's this Chargers team's just not uh, they've not held together very well as far as their injuries. They have been riddled by injuries. It's been very unfortunate for them. You're talking about Allen and Williams being injured for him. Bosa, we've brought up before, being injured for him. Receivers on the other side, I guess you have McCole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster out for the Chiefs, but I'm gonna have a lot more hope and belief in Patrick Mahomes being able to get it done with some limited tools than the Chargers right now. They just don't seem to be able to have that going with them. So I like, even with the +5 there, I like the Chiefs.
Um, so Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both being back gave me pause for a second. Uh, man, that's like a big addition for this
Hmm.
Chargers defense. You get your one and two receiver back for this game. That's huge. That being said, I think what puts this over the edge for the Chiefs for me is the fact that they've actually started to incorporate a run game. They've really started to incorporate Pacheco. Um, Jerick McKinnon's been running the ball pretty well the last couple weeks too. Like they've actually started to incorporate a run game
Yeah.
to go with this passing offense. It's just too much. It's just too much for this Chargers team to overcome, I think.
I mean, yeah,
I think
and the Chargers are beat to absolute shit on their defensive line. Not only Joey
that's
Bosa, who I
just it.
just brought up, but they have 3 defensive tackles on the IR now. Recent
Yeah.
IR ads as well.
Yeah.
Um, J.C. Jackson, yeah, like so many guys on that defensive side that they are missing right now.
Yeah.
They're a really beat up team. It's pretty unfortunate. Um,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I gotta go with the Chiefs. I think this newfound run game of theirs is gonna actually produce big in this game. I expect Pacheco to actually go over 100 in this one. McKinnon likely over 50.
there we go. And let's round it out. And I'm gonna let you go. You're gonna tell me why Colt McCoy is somehow gonna get it done now. I can't. No, the Niners are gonna be going into Arizona. Uh, Niners sitting at 5-4. Arizona at 4-6.
No, oh no.
No, no,
The
no.
Niners are going into
Mexico,
the
Mexico. Yeah.
Azteca.
That's right, the Mexico. Yeah. I forgot which one. It's usually the first game, and then when I realized it wasn't the first game, I'm like, oh, there isn't a way. But yeah, no, absolutely. This was the Mexico game we were potentially thinking of even going to. I kind of wish thought this. This actually is a terrible time though, as far as the timing wise.
Yeah, it doesn't
So
work out well timing wise.
yeah, but yeah, the Niners going to be going on the road. Both teams on the road, but they will be the road team.
Yeah,
Cardinals will be your designated home team on this one. Uh, yeah, Cardinals did come off a decent enough win there against the Rams. Niners beat both the LA teams back to back themselves in the past 2 games. But yeah, +8, or yeah, +8 for Arizona as the home team here. Um, I think this is Kyler coming back, right? Or is this
Tyler should be back.
okay?
Yes.
So this will be the Kyler Murray run Cardinals. Maybe Colt we'll see him depending on how this game goes. But yeah, uh, you already know where I'm going, so I'm wondering where you're going with it.
I will not tell you how Kyler Murray will beat the Niners because he won't. I will tell you how they'll keep it within 8. The answer's simple. The Niners don't score enough.
Huh.
I think it's a thing that they can break themselves out of. I don't think they do it here. I expect this game to be pretty low scoring. And because of that, I'll take the Cardinals to keep it within 8. I think San Francisco wins this thing. And much like last week's game, they're so much the better team that it's frustrating that this game ends like 23-17.
This will be the first time they face off this year. I think in previous years this has been a bit of a frustrating game for the Niners because you've had this unpredictability that Arizona has been able to bring as far as how they use Murray. Murray's always been able to, like any mobile-ish quarterback has been able to potentially take advantage of the Niners in some ways with that. I don't see that as much here anymore. This defense has even become more stout than some of those teams. I think also the pieces like you have a Talanoga Hufunga who loves getting into the backfield to stop runs, stop the short, the screens or the flats. He's a ball hunter, and so I think that's going to work out really well for him. Um, I think for the most part, as well, Arizona has, yeah, you've had a couple of games I'd say with Connor back there doing all right, but Murray has looked like lost.
Yeah.
He hasn't run this offense very well, and you actually had that with Colt McCoy. The fact that Murray's coming back into this game, I think it hurts. I think it hurts a lot for the offensive potential for this Arizona team. I would say if this was like Murray was running this offense like it was a year ago, I'd absolutely say no. Murray's still like the better option against this Niners team based on how the Niners have not been able to play mobile quarterbacks as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think now it's a little bit. I think it's quite a bit different, and yeah, uh, like the Niners by a good amount. I don't think they'll, it's not like this Niners team will ever be putting up like 40, 50 or anything on opponents, but I think this will be a game where we see potentially into the 30s for this Niners team, and I don't see much from Arizona. So,
If
Niners.
they hit the 30s, this is Niners. I can't bet on them
Right.
to score like that, right? Like, if this is an outright pick, it's the Niners very easily. They are so much the better team in this game. They're frustratingly inept offense at getting into the end zone.
Right.
I think shows up in this game again a little bit. Again, it doesn't punish them in this game because they are that much better than the Cardinals. I think it just shows up here a little bit again. And there's just a few too many drives that end in field goals in my head for me to take them by 8 or more.
All right. So let's review right there. So we just hit on that one. We are split on that game. I will have the Niners. Craig will have the Cardinals against the spread. Uh, Also are split on the Rams and Saints. I have the Saints. Craig has the Rams.
Neither one of us confident in our picks.
Not really. That was a tough one. Two bad teams. The other one that we are split on, one other game, is going to be Philly against Indianapolis. I have Indy. Craig has Philly. And let me tell you a little something else about this game. We've been doing this last couple weeks, and I got a little something for you. We got a guy by the name of Jonathan Taylor. We have both been looking for him to do fucking anything like we were expecting him to do.
Yep.
This is where the consistency. We had one good game from him. We're gonna have another good game for him. I don't love how potentially the you brought up the guy who wasn't Sue, but like basically they're a little injured. They're a little soft on that interior defense. We know that they're going to be trying to run the ball. This will be my prediction for this next upcoming game. Jonathan Taylor against the Philadelphia Eagles, plus 150 yards and at least one touchdown.
Ooh, 150.
150.
Ooh, that's a big boy number.
That will be my bet right there. 5 gifted on the lines. I already owe Craig 5. I gotta get him when he's streaming, and we'll get those two of it. Then 5 on the line for this bet right here.
That's a big boy one.
Yeah.
I like it.
Gotta go
I
big, baby. Gotta go big. JT's gotta get off the schneid for us.
I could see it. I could see it. It's definitely. I think it's definitely in the realm of possibility. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor. We saw it last year, man. He can go off. I don't know, man. I love the addition of Linval Joseph to that line.
All right. Hey,
I,
that's what it's about, though. We gotta make these spicy, man.
I said it. I have JT under 100, so
There you go. And then we didn't mention it. I will hit really quickly. We do have 4 teams on bye, and a couple that I'll be actually taking a look at. We got Jacksonville. We got Miami on bye. We got Seattle on bye as well, and Tampa Bay kind of rounding out those 4. So a couple interesting teams. See how they come back off those bye weeks coming up. But yeah, some interesting games up for the weekend. Be looking forward to catching those. I know there's probably a couple things we could bring up here as we start to close out the episode. I
oh
know,
boy, is there.
I know you have a interesting blog post, and I got a little something to say about it because I'm seeing Group B, and I'm like, yeah, all right, England, it might be coming home, who knows, but USA at one point in Group B, this son of a bitch. Right up here. This guy. How dare you? 1 point out of the Group
So,
B?
so
All
I
right.
did do my World Cup prediction,
Yes. That's what
and
I'm referring to.
I did indeed in Group B have the standings at England on first, 9 points. They're going to win all 3 matches. Wales second with 4. Then Iran with 2, and the USA with 1 single point. And I did explain it in the blog. I did explain it. This is a team that is tactically flawed down to its very core because of Greg Berhalter. Just absolutely horrendous mismanagement of a team that is very talented. In this group, easily the second most talented team by some distance. But this is a team that in qualification drew Jamaica, drew Panama. Against El Salvador, they struggled. They lost again to Panama and Costa Rica. These are all teams that are worse than Wales, worse than Iran, right? If you look at the way they played in the lead up to this tournament as well, they got their shit beat out of them in a friendly by Japan a couple months ago. This team just doesn't look right. It's a mishmash of players who are talented but just aren't being put into the best possible system. I think the best thing possible for the USA is going to happen in this group, and they're going to get their shit beat out of them. And it's going to get Berhalter out of there. It's going to get in somebody who can use guys like Serginho Dest, use guys like Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, all this talent they have in this lineup, and actually get the most out of it. I think they get beat up in Qatar, and it does only good things for them coming into 2026 at home in the US. So yes, I have them finishing dead last in Group B. They only get a draw out of Iran in my prediction, but I think in the long run, it's the best possible thing for them.
There you go. And you can catch that. That's over at the Sports Clichés. That's our blog write-ups that Craig takes care of, handling multiple sports. He's taking on the college football throughout the year, some NHL predictions and prognosticating, and the latest one are those group stage uh,
Yep.
predictions.
Yep.
Yeah, some good
To
stuff
be
between.
fair, USA fans aren't even the ones who are going to be the most
No,
upset because I did knock out Uruguay in the group stage to South Korea as well.
yeah. And if we're being honest, I have no fucking idea. So it was just funny to get it fired up. But yeah, no, you go check that out. That is sportscliches.ca/blog. Did I get that right?
Sportscliches.ca/blog.
There we go. Got it
Uh,
right. I'm getting that like 3 weeks in a row right. Sweet.
Also put up the week 12 predictions for college football.
That's right.
For those who don't know, we are getting down to the very nitty gritty.
I'm gonna start.
Um, I put in my blog this week a list of all the teams who could be bowl eligible with a win. Because, I've done it all season with the blog where I've tried to perpetuate teams, the lesser known quantities, right? Because I think the best part about college football is there's diversity in it, right? Yeah, sure, you could watch Tennessee and Georgia, and they're great teams with great players, but sometimes it's fun to watch UAB versus BYU in an absolute shit show of a game. That's fun, right? That's just generally fun. So those are some fun ones that I put in there as well. But yeah, there is something else I want to talk about
All right.
because I don't think Tap knows this. But this Sunday at 4 p.m. my time, anyways, we have the Grey Cup,
Oh yes.
the finals of the Canadian football season. It comes down to the most predictable final possible. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Toronto Argonauts. Uh, Winnipeg easily the best team in the CFL for the last few years now. Toronto plays in the East, so they get kind of an unfair advantage of they get to play in the East. Um, to put it simply, the Western Conference in the CFL is the NFC East, and the Eastern Conference in the CFL is the AFC West.
Yeah. Jeez.
um, the Bombers are going to win this. I'll throw it out there. I don't. The way the Argos have to win this is they need to flip field position quickly. It's going to be in Saskatchewan. So for anybody who knows anything about Canadian provinces, it's going to be cold and snowy and windy and not fun. That's going to help Toronto a little bit. But they're going to need to flip field on Winnipeg a lot. Hope to get a special teams edge. They need to hope that Collaros' ankle is worse than it sounds. He's practiced all week and it sounds like it's okay. They need to hope that it's not. Um, they need to hope that Dalton Schoen he didn't know where Winnipeg was at the start of the season when he got drafted into the CFL out of Kansas State. We need to hope that he also doesn't know where Saskatchewan is and gets lost along the way and maybe doesn't make it to the game. Because he is a very good receiver. He's a guy who I wouldn't be shocked if he's on an NFL roster next year. He was a guy who came out of college a little bit late. I think he was 26 coming into Winnipeg. He's got like 1,500 yards receiving this year, 11 touchdowns. He's unbelievable. He's gonna find his way onto an NFL roster next year, I think. This Winnipeg team is just like by far the best team in the CFL, and it would take a lot of things happening for Toronto to win this one. I won't break it down too much, because even as a Canadian, I'm not the biggest fan of the CFL. There's a lot of the younger generation in Canada. The CFL is just it. There's a lot of things about the CFL. It's clearly talent wise just not as good as the NFL, right? Um, and then with the addition of smaller leagues in the US, they're not bringing in that like secondary talent that finds its way to the NFL. There's some things about the rule set I actually like. Like touchbacks are worth a point. I love that. Um, Namely for scoregami purposes. CFL scoregami is a lot easier because you can actually score 1 point in a play. Um, but in general, I find there's a lot of the rules I don't like. Like there's no fair catch in the CFL. Instead, they have a penalty called no yards, where if you're within 5 yards of the receiver when he catches it, it's a 15-yard penalty. Right? It's just it's objectively worse than fair catch. Right? So there's a lot of things like that, but I'll be watching the Grey Cup. Obviously, it'll be fun nonetheless.
Yeah,
Um,
it's football,
but yeah,
baby. We love it.
I'll throw it out there. I think the Bombers are gonna win. I don't know what the line is, but whatever it is, just take the Bombers. Um, they consistently were beat like if you look at their scores, it's like 43-22, 48-11, 31-13, 54-20, right? And
Yeah.
these were against good teams, by the way, teams that were making the playoffs. It is worth noting that the last time they played the Argos in the regular season, it was kind of a close game. So maybe that's something for the Argos to keep hope on, but this Bombers team is just way better.
Sounds like yeah. I mean, nothing bad with more football. It's I what I hope out of that XFL product. Hopefully we get some decent enough spring
Yeah.
football to fill the gap, sort of thing. We know it's not going to be NFL level stuff, but uh, still to be enjoyed. So, right on, right on. Anything more you want to hit on before we call it for this episode?
I don't think so. I think World Cup stuff is all on the blog. If you're curious about
Yeah,
what I think about that, I have already said it that if you're mad at my predictions, blame Tap.
yeah, I totally had a lot to do with it.
As he was mad at my predictions. Um, yeah, I don't think it's worth going into a big long thing about the World Cup here. Just it's fucking bullshit. We all know that. Uh, as viewers, though, there's not much we can do about it, so we might as well enjoy the fact that there's going to be an elite level tournament going on rather than do some half-hearted attempt to boycott it and accomplish nothing. That's my thought. It might be a little bit defeatist, but Qatar's already got their World Cup. They paid their billions of dollars and it worked. They won.
Yeah,
There's nothing much we can do about it now.
pretty much. All right, y'all. Well, that'll do it right there for the Sports Clichés podcast. Joining us for another Friday. Thank you all for stopping by. Next week will be a little interesting for me. Next week will be Thanksgiving on Thursday. I'll be getting back into the area on Friday. I'm not entirely sure exactly what time and stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to do the pod at the usual time. But to be determined on that. But you can check us out most times on Fridays every week here on the twitch.tv/TapatiOJ channel. That's TAPATIOJ. You can also catch us on YouTube. You look up Sports Cliches on that. You can find us there. And yeah, like we brought up earlier, be sure to check out the sportscliches.ca blog that our boy Craig is posting on pretty much weekly at this point. So go check that out. And yeah, thank you all for stopping by. Hope you all have a great night. And until next time, we'll see you on the other side. Have a good one, everybody.
Deuces.